tragic turn.
It shocked him. He realized he had hit a person.
He was just horrified. He thought he'd killed her.
But an unexpected discovery suggests something more sinister.
She was already dead before that car ever came near her. Now it's a murder.
The reality is we've got to start all over again and work backwards.
As rookie detective Kenda works his second homicide case, he realizes things aren't always what they seem.
And the initial thought I had was panic. Like, how are we going to solve this? Every case is difficult because every case is a mystery. The journey begins with the first step. So you take the first step. There's one thing that never changes. Murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
Academy Boulevard. It's one of the main commercial thoroughfares in Colorado Springs. But after 2 a.m. on a weeknight, it's nearly deserted.
Larry Shanks had spent the evening with his girlfriend, Cheryl Aveda, and now he's driving her home.
They're chatting, they're having fun, flirting, listening to the radio.
So, I was thinking about having a get-together this weekend.
Yeah, I like that. What were you thinking?
The speed limit along this stretch of road is 50 miles an hour. They were probably doing a little more than that.
Maybe Jeremy and Marcia. And sister.
As Larry's driving, he's approaching another car and instinctively goes to pass it.
Oh, my dad had that car when I was a little kid. Oh my god! I think he just hit somebody.
What?
It's morning in the CSPD Investigations Bureau, and rookie homicide detective Joe Kenda is keeping his nose to the grindstone. He's been on the job less than a year.
At that time, I was one of only a handful of people that had a college education that was a policeman. So they called me.
Hey, college boy. There's some homework here for you to do. Thanks.
At this point, I've solved only one attempted homicide case where someone shot 2 people in a convenience store. That got me the job in homicide, but now I had to prove to everyone I deserved to stay here.
And when you're through with that, I need wings. I'll get right on it.
For the most part, I've been spending my time helping out the seasoned detectives while I learn the ropes.
Make your professor proud.
But today, Kenda's boss, Sergeant Ken Bayans, has bigger plans for the rookie detective.
Hey, Kenda. Yes, Sergeant. I might have a case for you. You up to it? Absolutely, sir.
Sergeant Baynes was my sergeant in the Crimes Against Persons Unit, as it was called at that time. I thought he was a very smart guy, the kind of person I wanted to be, and I tried to emulate him.
Young woman died, hit by a car. Traffic unit investigated, and they originally thought it was an accident. They wanted us to take a look just to make sure.
This is my second case as a homicide detective. I solved that first one, but now I had that nagging feeling that maybe on that occasion I just got lucky.
When the accident occurred?
4 days ago. Here are the reports from the crime scene investigation.
Who's the victim?
Her name was Wanda Murray.
When you look at the initial file, you learn very little. You know this woman's name is Wanda Pearl Murray. She's 29 years old, and she is currently deceased.
Local woman, divorced, alone. She had a couple of daughters, but they lived with their father down in Texas. The traffic investigators thought it looked pretty cut and dry.
On the night of the accident, traffic investigators questioned the driver who hit Wanda. A man named Charles Clark.
It just happened so fast. I didn't mean to do it.
You're gonna be okay. Just walk me through what happened.
Okay, I was just heading home. The road was pretty buried.
Somebody's sure in a hurry.
So Charles Clark, driving on Academy, has this car pass him, and he realizes it's going pretty fast. He thought, I wonder if I'm going the speed limit. So he looks down for a second, and then, like, wham, he's hit something.
It shocked him. He looked in the rearview mirror, immediately stopped his car, slamming on the brakes, and realized he had hit a person.
pretty close to your worst nightmare to look around and realize it was a human. And clearly, you ran over her.
I swear I never saw her. I just looked at my speedometer for a second and...
Tell me, have you had anything to drink tonight?
No.
Would you mind to give us a breath sample?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
People don't really know this, but breathalyzers have been around since the invention of the automobile.
Keep going, keep going.
And even in the 1970s, they were sophisticated enough to tell you with near certainty whether or not a person had been drinking. And Mr. Clark,
Officers checked to see if the physical evidence matched Charles Clark's statement.
It looks more like he ran over her rather than hitting her, striking her down.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any damage to the bumper.
And though Charles Clark hadn't been drinking at the time of the accident, the same can't be said for the victim.
Boy, you smell that?
Yeah, she hit the bottle hard tonight.
might seem unbelievable, but you can actually smell alcohol in human blood at a death scene.
According to the crime scene report, a trail of blood and skin tissue led up to where the victim's mangled body lay.
I'd say she got hit over there and dragged all the way down to here.
Everything about this crime scene said accident.
Skid marks clearly indicated that he stopped after he struck the victim, which would tell us he didn't see her beforehand.
Auto meaning pedestrian almost always is an intoxicated pedestrian who staggers into the roadway, so they assume this woman is drunk, trips and falls, collapses. And is immediately struck by a car.
Charles Clark was not charged in this case. The physical evidence showed that he did not do anything wrong.
As far as the police are concerned, the matter's closed.
Looks like your standard auto versus pedestrian. What do you need homicide to do?
All I know is when the coroner's office looked at the body, it raised a red flag.
So we should go see what's up, right, Sarge?
You got it.
So we go to the El Paso County Morgue because our best source now is Dr. Urich.
Oh, hey, fellas.
But the rookie detective isn't prepared for what's in store.
Forgive me if I don't shake your hand.
It's the first time I had ever seen a body that had been autopsied. The skull removed, the organs removed. It was startling.
You all right, detective?
Yeah, boss. All good.
Don't worry. You'll get used to it.
There's an old expression in homicide that you go from being a new guy to an old guy in about 15 minutes. And that was true in that case.
Well, here she is. Miss Wanda Murray. I'm still waiting on some test results, but I noticed something very odd when I was going through her organs.
What's that?
Well, let me back up a little bit. She was run over, right? Severe injuries to the outside. Severe injuries to the inside, too.
She had extensive tears to her lungs, her heart, her liver when the car hit her. But the exception was that she didn't have any bleeding associated with those injuries.
Oh. And what's that mean?
It means that those injuries were caused post-mortem.
So in other words, she was all... Well, my. I'm a brand new homicide detective, and we are involved in an extremely unusual case. So now we have to discover what it is that made Wanda Pearl Murray wind up at a morgue table.
Now, we can't establish an exact cause of death until we get all the lab results back. But everything's pointing toward asphyxiation. And there could be any number of causes for that.
The medical examiner believed that Wanda actually died of possibly strangulation or blunt force head trauma, and that the motor vehicle accident happened afterwards.
It's your case, detective. How do you want to handle this?
But because I was young and I was new, I was nervous. I was very concerned about making some mistake I couldn't recover from.
I'd say we need to reinvestigate the accident scene. Maybe she'll tell us how she really died. At least how she got there in the first place.
Let's go do this.
All right, thanks, Doc.
Thanks, Doc. And the initial thought I had was a little bit of panic. Like, how are we going to solve this? So Sergeant Baines and myself and other detectives arrive at the scene of this accident on Academy Boulevard. 4 days later in the daytime,
It hasn't rained since the accident, leaving stains of dried blood spread across the pavement.
Hey, Sarge. I got a bank statement with her name on it.
You must have missed something. It was really dark outside.
So you stand there and look at this and you think, this was somebody's life. And all that remains is some bloodstains and a bank statement. Kind of sad.
Hey, Kenda.
Yes, Sarge.
But as a homicide detective, you learn how to set all of that aside. You have a job to do.
You any good with blood evidence?
Yes, sir.
Come on over and check it out. Let me know what it tells you.
The evidence shows her body was lying there, partially in the traffic lane when the car ran over her. Was she walking down the street when she encountered her killer and was strangled? 4 days later, it's impossible to say.
However, the surrounding area gives Kenda an idea. He knows this stretch of road is basically deserted around 2 a.m.
No possibility of any witnesses having seen anything. The perfect place to dump a body.
I think our victim was strangled somewhere else and dumped here. I think the killer panicked, pushed her out of the vehicle and sped off, which is why she was partially in the traffic lane.
It's an interesting theory. Now we just need to find out who wanted to do something like that to our victim. Thanks. I really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks.
We have no idea. At the present time, somebody on planet Earth made this happen. We need to narrow that down a little bit.
Hoping to learn whatever they can about Wanda Murray, the detectives head to her last known address, the home of Reverend James McMurn and his wife Mary.
Come on in. I just made some tea. Would either of you gentlemen like some?
No, thanks, ma'am.
None for me, thanks.
The Reverend James McMurn and his wife Mary were pillars of the community.
So what can I help you with in regards to Wanda?
Ma'am, we hate to tell you, but Wanda was killed in a traffic accident.
So we talked to Mary and said why we were there, and she was very distressed, of course, by this news.
Oh, Wanda. That girl's life was nothing but misery. It just seems like she could never catch a break.
Wanda was the classic example of a lost childhood. She had a baby when she was still in high school. She dropped out of school.
Come on, babies. Come on. Come on.
According to Mary, hardship followed Wanda through her 20s.
It's all right. Go ahead, get in the car.
Wanda separated, divorced from her husband, who kept the children.
And?
That would indicate she was having some problems because back in that era, courts routinely appointed custody to the mother.
How did she come to live here with you and your husband?
The Lord brought her to us.
She'd actually done some criminal activity, which landed her in jail.
She's done her time for shoplifting. And the Reverend and I met her at one of the inmates ministry programs we ran for women. We saw such a good heart in Wanda. I got some blankets here for you. It gets really chilly in here at nighttime.
They decided to sponsor her for her parole and actually give her a place to stay because she didn't have anything.
Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. We're happy to help. Just make yourself at home.
Mary said when Wanda first came there were no issues at all.
But no one would hire her with that criminal conviction. It really wore on her. I think that's how she lost her faith.
How so?
She had problems with alcohol, and when she was drinking, she started having some very...
It was frightening.
Wanda. What in the world?
I'm just trying to make a sandwich. Can I eat him? Can I take you a sandwich?
Just stop, okay?
Mary says that she would go from being aggressive to very quiet, to not saying or doing anything.
Just let me eat in peace. Just leave me alone.
I've never seen anybody react like that to alcohol. At any rate, we tried to help her, but after a few months, we just asked her to leave.
Do you know where she went?
She said Wanda had been staying with a party by the name of Luther Brown.
Luther was a lieutenant in the Air Force living out at Peterson Air Force Base.
So Luther becomes instantly interesting. He is someone connected to her that we didn't know about. We talked to Mary. Now it's time to talk to Luther.
Back at the station, Kenda pulls records on Lieutenant Luther Brown.
Let me know when you track down the witness.
Sure thing. Hey, Sarge, just take a look at this. Looks like the military police responded domestic between our victim and boyfriend.
Really?
Murder is always emotion overcoming judgment. It's rage expressed in violence.
Baines and Kenda begin to wonder, what if a domestic disturbance between Wanda and Luther turned deadly?
He panics, he throws her out of a car. Who knows? As is true in every relationship, it takes two to tango. Does that mean he killed her? No. Does it mean he could have? Of course. We're investigating the death of 29-year-old Wanda Murray. We discovered she has a boyfriend named Luther Brown, and we're really interested in finding out what he has to say for himself.
Thanks for coming in so quickly.
No problem. I actually can't believe she's dead.
So our question to him is simple. Tell us about Wanda, and tell us about you and Wanda.
We met a few months ago, and I actually thought she was something special, but it went all south after that.
He noted that she had a Jekyll Hyde kind of attitude.
He's dealing with that same personality that Mary, the Reverend's wife, describes. Aggressive, passive. Aggressive, passive. Very odd. Very strange.
And then one night she just went crazy.
He said she even attacked him with a knife.
Get out of my way, Luther.
No.
No, you're not driving my car. You're drunk. You're gonna get somebody killed. Cut it out. Stop. Whoa. Stop it.
Give me my key. Who are you calling?
Security.
Luther.
I need you guys at 13C.
Give me.
Right away. Thank you. What are you doing? I just want you safe. Like, what are you doing?
He called security. He was not gonna mess around and see if she was serious about it.
What's going on with you?
So, what happened after that?
Well, the MPs came. They made sure they calmed her down. And then they left.
Luther paints himself in the best light, but we've become alarmed about the disturbance factor.
So, Luther, when was the last time you saw Wanda?
It was about 5 or 6 days ago. I couldn't take it anymore, so I broke up with her.
He kicked her out of his apartment the day before her death. Interesting.
And where were you the night of Wanda's death? After she moved out?
I was home. I was on base with some friends. I didn't leave that night.
I'm looking into that.
Sure thing, Sergeant.
So, what else can you tell me about that night?
After a few attempts, Kenda finally reaches the Air Force MPs who responded to Luther Brown's initial disturbance call.
Yes, I'm calling about a police report involving one of your lieutenants.
The officers gave Luther Brown a glowing review. They said he was a well-respected officer, and they were able to verify his version of the chain of events. He was not the aggressor. Wanda was the aggressor.
Well, I appreciate the information. Thank you. Bye.
We were able to confirm he also did not leave Peterson Air Force Base that evening, so we were able to clear him as a suspect.
So, Kate checks out.
Any idea where Wanda went to stay after she left her apartment?
Oh, yeah, of course. She has a friend named Dee Dee Smith. That's the only person I can think of.
You have an address for her?
Yeah, sure.
I'll write it down.
So our next stop, of course, is Dee Dee.
Sorry to bother you, ma'am, but we're looking for Dee Dee Smith.
That's me. Is this about Wanda's death?
Yes, ma'am. We'd like to ask you a few questions about her. Could you tell us a little bit about her?
Wanda was Wanda.
Dee Dee knew Wanda was capable of mood swings. So Dee Dee says that day, just after Luther had kicked her in the street, she was what?
Favorite watering hole, which was the Cloud 9.
Did you go with her?
Me? No, I don't go out on weeknights. I told her to have a good time, don't be out too late, but she never came home.
All right, Miss Smith, sorry for your loss. Thank you.
After speaking with Dee Dee Smith, Bayans and Kenda head to the Cloud 9 nightclub. It's a venue all too familiar to Colorado Springs police.
I have covered plenty of shootings and knifings at this nightclub, which became known fondly as the Knife and Gun Club.
Afternoon. I'm Sergeant Baynes. This is my partner, Detective Kenda.
I'm Willie Hicks. I run security around here.
Willie Hicks was a bouncer in a bad place, but Willie was a military policeman at Fort Carson. This was an extra job for him. So we knew Willie was a straight shooter with us.
You know a customer named Wanda Murray?
Yeah, I heard she got hit by a car on Academy Boulevard. That's awful, man.
We thought he was killed before that happened. We're investigating this as a homicide.
Really?
He says, well, I know who did it, man. I know who killed her then. And we almost dropped our notebook.
Willie explains that the night Wanda died, he saw her drinking with a friend named Faye Greer.
She was drinking excessively.
So good to get out the house.
She was obviously upset about the breakup.
According to Willie, trouble started when an Army vet by the name of Kevin Milroy showed up.
Kevin Milroy was Faye Greer's ex-boyfriend. She had broken up with him 3 weeks earlier.
Leave me alone already.
He's coming over.
He's
Yeah. Hey, I got your back, all right?
Thank you.
Hey, baby, how are you? You doing all right? Looking good, girl.
He really wanted to get Faye back. He was convinced he could talk her into moving back in, and that was his goal.
Oh, and you're drunk. Look, just go home. You're embarrassing me.
Okay, I'll go home. You come on, come on.
No, stop. Absolutely not. Look, I already told you, this is done and over with.
Faye didn't want to speak with him, kept sending him away. He didn't really take no for an answer.
Willie said that Wanda was very protective of her gender and would instantly confront a male to stop the behavior of the male being verbally abusive toward a female.
Kevin, you already heard what she said. Get the hell out of here and leave her alone.
Bitch, this between me and my wife. Stay out of it.
Look, you son of a bitch. She's not your wife and she ain't gonna be either. Now get the hell out of my face before I get you kicked out of here.
And this angered Kevin to the point where he actually threatened her.
Bitch, I'll kill you.
Oh, he gonna kill me? And to scare you.
Break this shit up or
No wonder Willie thinks he knows who did this. That sounds awfully promising.
Willie explains that Faye eventually agreed to talk to Kevin in private. But just minutes after they stepped outside,
There's a fight out here!
So now everybody piles outside. And there's Kevin. And there's Faye. And Faye's lip is split and she's got blood all over her face.
He's sick to my stomach.
What happened?
He just hit me in my mouth.
Honey, go inside and get some ice. You're done. That's it for you, buddy. Man, get your ass out of here. I bet not ever see your face here no more.
Get the out of here.
Everything calmed down after that. I never saw Kevin again.
What about Wanda? What time did she leave?
Beats me. I'm just a bouncer, not a babysitter.
Kenda and Bayans wonder, could Kevin have been waiting outside for Wanda to leave?
So we have what we think is a really solid suspect. He makes a pronouncement he's going to kill her before the night is over, and somebody certainly did that.
The following afternoon, Kenda and Bayans summon Kevin Milroy to the station for questioning.
What y'all fools want?
Of course, he is the typical confident, arrogant, mouthy, profane guy who's talked to the police before.
We know about the fight you had with Faye and Wanda at the club. What we didn't know is what happened outside.
What do you mean? Well, you can start by telling us how Faye got that bloody lip.
And Kevin says, she hit my elbow with her mouth.
Okay, so however it happened, Faye ended up on the wrong end of your elbow, but you're saying that's the end of it?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying you never put your hands on Wanda Murray that night?
Huh? Did you choke her? Did you put your hands on her throat?
No. Once the bouncer told me to leave, that's when
And then you drove home?
No, I walked home.
He says his car was damaged and was actually in the shop.
If Kevin's story is true, it would be impossible for him to have dumped Wanda's body by the side of the road.
Academy Boulevard is about 6 miles as the crow flies from this nightclub.
All right, Kevin. We just need for you to stay put a little while longer till we check out a few things.
When we talk to Faye Greer, she has a seriously injured mouth.
I'll go and have a seat.
Thank you for coming in on such a short notice. You want to tell us what happened to your lip?
Oh, it's nothing. It's not a big deal.
So instead, they switched to a seemingly innocent topic.
Faye, can I ask you, does Kevin own a vehicle?
He did, but he wrecked it a few weeks ago. And that idiot is too broke to pay for a mechanic.
And he hasn't been borrowing anyone else's during this whole time?
No, as a matter of fact, everyone's tired of him bumming rides all the time.
Well, he can't get from that nightclub to the Academy Boulevard in the time provided by any other means except an automobile, and he doesn't have one. So Faye ultimately confirms Kevin's alibi.
Excuse me for a moment.
Boy, I was feeling really confident that we finally had the person responsible for her death. And then, poof, we've got nobody.
All right, Kevin.
That nagging fear began to creep in. What if I can't solve this? Sergeant Baines and I have been reconstructing the timeline of Wanda Murray's final night. We know she spent the evening with her friend Faye Greer at the Club 9. But if Faye's abusive boyfriend Kevin Milroy didn't kill her, then I'm hoping that Faye can lead me to someone else who may have a motive for murdering Wanda Murray.
So, Faye, what happened after Kevin split?
Well, my lip was hurt pretty badly. This is terrible.
That looks real bad. You need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I probably do.
Yeah?
Oh,
You want
girl.
me to go with you?
No. Go ahead on and go and have fun. I'll see you later.
Well, I'm probably just gonna go to Ouija's, but I can come with you if you
No.
want me to.
I'll see you later. Have fun tonight. Bye. That was the last time I saw her.
So Wanda was headed to Ouija's.
Yeah. It was around 1 a.m.
So Faye said goodbye, and an hour later, Wanda's dead. Odds are Ouija's was her last stop.
Baines and Kenda want to speak with the late-night bartender there, who's been a help to police on previous cases.
Her name is Sandy. We've had contact with Sandy in the past because of the nature of her clientele.
Afternoon, Sandy.
Hey, detective. What can I do for you today?
Were you working the bar Monday night at closing time?
Yeah.
Do you remember Wanda Murray being in there? Oh yeah, Wanda was in there.
Hi. Hey, Sandy. Can you give me a scotch? Sure. Rocks? Yeah, thanks.
She was kind of quiet and she just wanted a drink.
This hurt her up. Thank you.
So, what kind of trouble are you trying to get into tonight?
Me?
Sandy says they just kind of quietly talked at the bar. That's unusual for Wanda, because usually Wanda's not quiet.
And then when I gave the last call at 1:45, everybody clear out, including Wanda.
According to Sandy, that's when she realized Wanda didn't settle her tab.
Paul, get her back in here. She didn't pay for her last one.
Paul Morris immediately followed her outside to tell her that she owed for a drink.
Did she leave with anybody?
I don't know. I just saw her as she walked out the door. Ask Paul. He's inside.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's right. I went out to Wanda, but she was pissed drunk.
She seemed to think the last guy she been talking to had bought the last round.
He described her as having a very erratic behavior.
Sweetie, you gotta pay up.
Wanda rather rudely told him that she'd paid for the drink and to leave her alone.
Well, don't come back here unless you can pay the tab.
Whatever.
He sees Wanda get in the car with the individual that she'd been drinking with.
According to Paul Morris, this exchange transpired at precisely 2 a.m.
So this occurs at 2 in the morning. By 2:20, Wanda Murray's dead. The timeline ending is more important than the beginning because there's no opportunity for her to meet anybody else. She's in the company of her killer.
Any idea who the guy was?
Never saw him before. Well, he was dressed well and drove a silver station wagon.
After all of this effort, we have finally discovered precisely who we're looking for. Now he needs a name.
Back at the station, Kenda eagerly pours through his notes looking for any clue that might help him identify this mystery man.
Looks like college boys in early this morning. What are you doing? Studying for a test?
Just doing my job.
To go from, in my case, being brand new at this, being afraid of it, thinking, man, how are we going to figure this out, to now knowing how we figured it out, and knowing we are inches away from arresting our guy, you feel great. You think, boy, I really am a detective.
But that feeling is short-lived.
I just got the report from the coroner's office. Okay. We got it all wrong. The guy from Ouija's, he didn't kill her.
What? So I'm working my second murder case ever, and I'm finally feeling confident we're going to solve this. When Sergeant Baines informs me that everything we thought about this case is dead wrong.
Sergeant, how's it even possible?
Take a look at yourself. Honestly, I've never seen anything like this before.
What?
And I almost fell out of my chair. You mean our homicide just became a natural death?
Perplexed, Baines and Kenda head over to the coroner's office for an explanation.
I'm sorry. We had no idea until the lab results came back. I was right about the asphyxiation, but I had the cause all wrong.
When the toxicology reports came back, the medical examiner realized that Wanda Murray was hypoglycemic. She had a low blood sugar, and this could account for her death.
And basically, she had diabetes and died of it.
There is no murder, so we sit there in stunned silence at this news.
I suspect Wanda didn't even know she had the disease, and her drinking certainly exacerbated her condition. If she took so much that her body couldn't process it, could trigger a diabetic coma.
Kenda believes the toxicology report also explains Wanda's peculiar behavior whenever she drank.
Just stop, okay?
One of the symptoms of hypoglycemia is mood swings from action to lethargy. Precisely the symptoms related by everybody who saw Wanda Murray.
Kenda and Baines now feel they piece together Wanda's death from start to finish.
So here we have Wanda Pearl Murray, age 29. She's been kicked out of her apartment by her boyfriend. She's morose. She doesn't think about dinner, she thinks about drinking.
By the time she arrived at Ouija's, Wanda had been drinking for several hours.
She finally winds up at her last stop, the neighborhood bar. And she meets a man at the bar, and she leaves with him.
Kenda believes that as they drove down Academy Boulevard, Wanda apparently passed out. But in fact, what was happening was that Wanda's organs were slowly shutting down.
Diabetics are at risk of hypoglycemia with alcohol consumption, particularly if they haven't eaten. Low blood sugar can kill someone pretty quickly.
Hey, Wanda, how far down this road do we go?
Until finally led them to believe she had been strangled.
Wanda!
She literally stopped breathing, causing her to die of asphyxia. When the breathing stopped, so did her life. God. And he looks over at her and realizes she's dead in the car. He panics.
Well, maybe he's under the influence of alcohol or drunk driving and doesn't want to get caught. Or maybe he's married and doesn't want to get caught with another woman.
In any case, he doesn't want a dead girl in his car. He's not thinking, he's reacting. He shoves her out of his car, into the street. He just disposes of her.
Moments later, an unsuspecting Charles Clark runs over Wanda's lifeless body.
Not only was this a tragic way for Wanda to be treated in death, but that innocent young man that hit her will forever remember the trauma of that night.
Due to the unusual nature of the case, Kenda and Vans must get permission to pursue their suspect for the charge of abusing a corpse.
So Sergeant Vans and I go to the district attorney's office to plead our case.
Nada. Even if we did win the case, we're looking at a small fine and maybe a month in jail. And honestly, we probably wouldn't even win. We can't pursue this with our limited resources.
Understand. Thank you for your time, sir.
No problem.
Let's go, Joe.
Thanks. It was a feeling of numbness. Effort, work for nothing.
I'm sorry, Sergeant. This just isn't right. That guy dumped that poor girl on the side of the road like she was a piece of garbage. We can't just let him get away with it.
He said, well, you're young and you're new. I bet you all feel so young and so new right now. And I didn't.
Son, we're not in the opinion business. It's our job to collect evidence. It's about what we can prove. And right now, we can't prove he did anything more than a petty misdemeanor.
He was making a point. This won't be your first bad experience.
The DA doesn't want to prosecute, so it's all for nothing.
Happens to the best of us, college boy. You know, we don't always get our guy, but you put up one hell of a good fight.
You learn from cases like this.
Thanks.
Available to you. Don't pursue a loser, because you still lose.
But as Kenda looks back on the case, he still wonders what happened to the man who abandoned Wanda Murray that fateful night on Academy Boulevard.
I am certain that he remembers that for the rest of his days. What he did to that girl was a horrible thing. He didn't kill her, but he didn't have to do what he did either.
It's a particularly tragic end for a woman who struggled her whole life.
Wanda Murray did not have the best of lives, perhaps, by some people's judgment. But at the end of the day, she had two little girls, and they'll never get to know their own mother. That's a tragic thing.
Two investigations from the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda. First, a pair of young men make a horrific discovery.
She had burns over 90% of her body.
The last word she said was cherry point, and she never spoke again. What could possibly motivate somebody to do such a violent, painful act?
This has to be one of the most dangerous people in the state of Colorado.
Then, a college student takes his last breath.
Wake up, Tim!
There were no visible injuries. So why did this person die?
When Kenda uncovers the truth, it's more shocking than he ever imagined.
Apparently he's blind.
Well, this is a very new one to me. Certain crime scenes come across as so strange you don't forget them. You expect to see certain things, but 5% of the time you don't. And it really strikes you when you're well experienced. There's one thing that never changes. Murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim.
If you kill, I will find you.
It's a warm summer evening in Colorado Springs.
There he is, brother.
and Eric Ships and Michael Rossell heading out for a night of fun.
How's work? They're making me work on Saturday.
What?
Yeah. Let's get out of here. Yeah.
Mike had gotten off work. And we just kind of said, let's go do something. Just get in the car and go for a ride.
Yeah, turn it up.
It was summertime. In those days, we spent a lot of time driving around town.
Hey, is that a... What is that?
I just happened to see a flash on my left-hand side.
What is that?
Which shouldn't have been there.
We thought, we should pull over and see if we can put that out.
Colorado Springs is surrounded by forests and grasslands, so fire is taken very seriously. It can easily get out of hand.
As soon as we approached, everything changed.
We realized this was a person.
She turned and looked at us.
I can still visualize 34 years later, her looking at me and seeing
the lights. So you don't have anything else to tell me? All right. To stay after a night in jail. Get him out of here.
We were doing an interrogation of an individual when this call came in.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Hey, what's the rush? Fire department's asking for help. They got a body of off East Fountain Street. All right, let me know if you need anything from me. We'll do.
When the fire department asked for the police to respond, that's unusual. So everybody sort of paid attention to that. Why do they want us?
At the scene, detectives John Anderson and Brian Reds quickly learn why their presence is required.
How you doing, Captain?
How you doing? It was a small fire. In the center of it was a woman with burns all over her body.
The captain from the engine tells us that the boys that were reporting the fire had basically put out the fire before they got there.
Is she likely going to survive?
It's not really looking promising.
The burn injuries with this victim was significant. She was burned over 90% of her body.
The boys that found her, did they recognize her? Did they know?
No, and we've not been able to find an ID on her.
Aside from the fact the victim appears to be a female in her 20s or early 30s, detectives have no way to identify her.
It's a big puzzle. There is just not a lot to go on.
The reason why I called you out is just before she had lost consciousness when they were putting the fire out, she had mentioned something about being attacked.
She said she was attacked?
Yes.
It would be an enormously heinous crime if someone were to attack someone and then intentionally set them on fire.
Can you show me exactly where the body was?
20 yards that direction.
Thank you.
As Anderson and Reds make their way to the burn site, a sickening odor fills the air.
There is a smell. I can't even describe it to you. It's beyond horrible. And that smell is burning of human flesh.
Well, the captain was right about the small burn. Yeah.
The detectives noticed with interest that the burn area is very confined. There should be a much wider burn area than there is.
Hey, John, what do you make of this?
Very close to this burn area is a 1-gallon gasoline can and a Bic lighter. Close to the gasoline can, there's a pair of ladies' shoes, and there is a woman's coat that has been neatly folded and placed next to the shoes. Very, very odd.
Could have been left by the attacker. Could have been a third party that just ran away. See if the boys are ready to talk, and maybe they can clear some of this up. It's a good idea.
We had very sketchy information, so it becomes very important to talk to the reporting party who were first there to ask if any evidence was moved, if they saw anyone leaving the scene.
Hey guys. Boys, we know you saw something really terrible tonight, but we need to find out what you know. When you found it, all we could until the firemen got out here.
Put the fire out, and then sat down next to the body.
It'll be okay.
I said, just hold on, help is coming.
She was conscious and making some noises or trying to speak.
Do either of you remember specifically what she said?
She didn't say much. She just kind of mumbled something about a man who stabbed her.
He did this.
What?
I stabbed. He did this to me.
At this point, this case is being looked at as a first-degree assault. If she dies, it becomes a homicide.
But who could be capable of such a heinous crime?
This is a very vindictive and dangerous individual.
Hey, you guys did a job tonight. You may have saved this woman's life. Try to go home and get some rest.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Despite the young men's help, detectives are faced with a number of unanswered questions.
So when we go to the hospital...
What's her blood pressure?
She's 88/48.
Get these fluids opened up.
The victim is being treated by the emergency room and the burn unit. It's not unusual for a detective to be able to get in there and see if she says anything.
Can you tell me your name?
She had inhaled the flames into her throat and her lungs, so she can only speak in shallow gasps.
Debbie. Bridgewood.
Debbie Bridgewood.
At least we have a name to go off of now, and we may be able to trace back to a residence, or a boyfriend, or a friend.
Get the tracheotomy kit over here, please.
With burns, our main concern right up at the outset is the lungs. If the person is in a state where they can't breathe on their own, the machine has to provide that for them.
So the possibility of talking is going to stop when they do that.
If you guys have any questions to ask, you're going to need to get in here and do that right away.
I remember him looking at me, and he said the last words that she is going to say in this life is the answer she's going to give you to the next question you ask.
Debbie, I'm Detective Anderson. I need to ask you a question. What happened to you?
I had to get very close to her to try to make sure that I could hear her response.
What's the last thing that she says to them?
Cherry Point. No idea.
Cherry Point could mean nothing. Could mean everything. We don't know how significant it is, but it's the only clue we have. So here we have this highly unusual case. Debbie Bridgewood has been doused in gasoline and set on fire. She's been intubated. The conversation with her is over.
However, Debbie's last words to detectives have given them a possible clue.
Cherry Point. She didn't say anything else?
Nope. And I was stumped on what it could mean.
It meant nothing to me. I didn't know if that was a neighborhood, if it was a city in the Denver metro area. We're coming up empty.
It could be anywhere. It could be subdivision. Might not even be in Colorado Springs.
Detectives check the city directories and the street maps. There's no Cherry Point Avenue, Street, Lane in the city of Colorado Springs. Nothing.
At a dead end, detectives opt for a different strategy.
We thought that maybe she's a runaway, or maybe she was expected to be somewhere and didn't show up. So we want to check to see if there's any kind of missing persons report for an individual that matches this description.
Hey, take a look at this. See this one here? That seems to match your description.
They find a missing persons report reported 24 hours before the fire of a Laura Smalls. She's 27 years old with long brown hair. She matches the physical, except for the name.
I think we need to talk to Laura Small's family.
I think you're right.
I'll give him a call. Good luck, guys.
We are hopeful that this case involving Laura Smalls is meaningful. Maybe Debbie Bridgewood is an alias. Who knows? But the possibility is that she is, in fact, Laura Smalls.
As detectives wait for Laura Small's family, the hospital calls with an important update on the victim.
Anderson. All right. Thanks for letting us know. How's the hospital? Our burn victim just passed away.
Damn.
She has died in Penrose Main Burn Unit after 11 hours of excruciating suffering. Now the next step in this investigation is to determine the damage and what the coroner's opinion is of the result.
While the victim's body is transported to the morgue, the Smalls family arrives at the station.
Ladies, have a seat.
Typically, people are very emotional when you summon them as a result of a missing persons report they had filed. They suffer from two things: hope that they found them alive and fear that they didn't.
Did you find her? Well, to be honest, we're not sure. That's why we asked you to come down to the station today. Did Laura live with you?
Yes.
And that's here in town?
Yes, but we haven't lived here very long. We recently moved here from Cherryport, North Carolina.
They look at each other, and without saying a word, they're able to communicate that this is going to be her. This is Laura Smalls.
It's a revelation to us, but we have the name of Debbie Bridgewood. We need to make sure that we're talking about the same person.
I'm going to show you a photo. Right now, we think this could be Laura, but I need to caution you ahead of time. She's been in a very serious accident. It's not easy to look at.
You can see the anticipation in their face. They know what's coming. Something they don't want to see, but something they must see.
We're very sorry.
They look at it, and without any question, that is in fact her daughter and her sister, Laura Smalls.
It's the worst news you could get, so it becomes very emotional for the officer as well as the victim's family.
We found some possessions at the scene that we believe may belong to Laura. Let us know.
After we allow them a few moments to compose themselves, the detectives ask these women, what are the circumstances of the report? Mom says that Laura had been living with her and her sister. She did not come home the night before last.
She just recently moved back in with us. She's been having some sort of issues with her husband.
Laura and her estranged husband were separated, and the sister talked about how there'd been allegations of potential abuse within the marriage.
What kind of abuse?
We're not really sure. Laura didn't really get into details.
Laura's sister explains that Laura had been very distant lately, but as her family, they wanted to give her some space to sort things out.
If we're looking at a domestic violence situation, this could be motive for what has happened to our victim.
Do you know where we can find Laura's husband?
Yes. His name is Dan. In the military.
With Laura's husband now a person of interest, Detectives Ritz and Anderson reach out to authorities in nearby Fort Carson.
Even though Dan Smalls is not stationed at Fort Carson, they have access to the records of the United States Army. And they were able to locate Dan Smalls and provide him for interview.
Have a seat. We need to ask you a few questions about your wife, Laura.
All right, what do you need to know?
Why don't you start just by telling us a little about your relationship?
Issues with his wife. They were separated, but that he was deployed outside of Colorado Springs and was actively on duty at the base. It was easy to be verified through military records. Dan has a solid alibi.
So what's going on? Why all the questions?
I hate to be the one to inform you, but unfortunately Laura has died.
What?
It must have been so hard for her husband. Throw in the hideous way in which she died. What a torturous way to leave somebody.
We now have to start backtracking to see if we can find a suspect in this case.
In need of a new lead, detectives return to the crime scene.
In many cases, we go back to the scene and see if there's something different there in different light.
Get the gas can and lighter right over here.
We want to re-examine the scene to see if we can get some other clues that might lead us in a different direction.
So there's no evidence of the killer coming in or going out by car. So they must have walked.
Right. If they walked, they probably got their gas somewhere nearby.
Exactly.
Closest station's probably, Shelton and Fountain?
So that's our next step. Let's go see if Dave might be able to tell us anything.
Hey, man, how's it going? Good. Job for you? Yeah. I'm going. Appreciate it.
Hey, John. There is a display rack containing red 1-gallon gas cans with a yellow diagonal stripe that said gasoline. The very same can that they saw at that crime scene.
Hey there. We're with CSPD. Need to ask you a few questions.
they see that can, they know somebody bought that can in this store. And who might that be? Detectives are working on a strange case involving a woman now identified as Laura Smalls, who was set on fire by an unknown attacker.
Who was CSPD? I'd ask you a few questions. How can I help you? Would you happen to know if anyone had spotted one of the gas cans in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, actually, I worked the graveyard shift last night and I sold one.
What did the customer look like?
Maybe in her 30s, long brown hair.
He'd be able to provide a description of this individual which matches the description of Laura Smalls.
There's no doubt. Laura Smalls bought the instruments of her death.
All I remember is that she was acting really weird.
How so?
I'm sorry.
Don't forget the lighter.
You want a lighter? Here. And then she just left.
Do you think she was drunk, high on something?
No, man. We get a lot of weirdos and drunks here on the graveyard shift, but I never seen nobody like her.
All right, thank you.
Why would a victim purchase gasoline, a Bic lighter? It's really bizarre.
The next step in this investigation is to attend the autopsy to determine what the coroner's opinion is of the result.
Hey, Doc. We were told she suffered third-degree burns? Yes, but what's interesting is where she wasn't burned. Notice that there's no burns underneath her body.
Cases where you have parts of their body that are unburned give you clues as to what their action was at the time.
She made no attempt to move when she was on fire. She made no attempt to escape or to crawl away from her attacker if there was one.
Doc, reportedly, she said that she'd been stabbed. No, there's nothing on this body that would indicate anything like that happened.
Laura Small's death was officially ruled a suicide by the El Paso County coroner, and the investigation was closed.
Here's your report. Thank you.
It's a suicide of the worst possible kind, self-immolation, setting oneself on fire.
I can't believe it. Why? The evidence all fits. She did this to herself.
What we'll never know is why. What could possibly motivate somebody to do such a violent, painful act upon themselves?
With the case closed, detectives will never know precisely why Laura Smalls took her own life. However, one possible explanation may lie in the form of a complex psychological condition thought to be triggered by severe trauma.
From a psychological point of view, she may have suffered from what is called a dissociative personality, more commonly known as a multiple personality disorder.
If Laura Smalls did suffer from multiple personality disorder, it would explain why she originally identified herself as Debbie Bridgewood.
Debbie didn't remember her body being set on fire and suffering great pain, but only remembered the assault of a man.
The multiple personality theory also suggests that a third personality, one that was decidedly male and decidedly violent, was responsible for Laura's brutal death.
Why are you doing this to me? Why can't you just leave me alone?
This is what you
deserve. A person who suffers from personality emerging from them.
The night of July 6, 1984, Laura Smalls devised a plan to end her days on this planet. She methodically went through the plan, purchased a gasoline container, filled it with a gallon of gasoline, purchased a lighter.
Laura Smalls was apparently overwhelmed by emotional pain.
I don't want to do this, but
you're making me do this. It's quite possible she couldn't take her life herself, and the disorders she suffered helped her find a way out when she allowed this alternate personality to emerge and do that for her.
Please don't do this, please.
Shut up.
Please, I don't want to die.
Laura Smalls became someone else. Shut up. She became an angry man.
Take off your jacket.
No.
Take off your jacket.
She created this man who brought her to her death, to rid her of all this misery.
You did this to yourself.
She took off her coat.
You did this to yourself.
She took off her shoes.
No.
You made me do this.
While no one will ever fully understand what role mental illness played in Laura Small's death, those who witnessed her suicide firsthand will never forget it.
I still think about what a horrific death that must have been. It really still has a nerve with me that somebody would feel so terrible that they would actually do that to themselves.
The incidence of suicide attempts and successful suicides is upward of 70%, with people suffering from dissociative identity disorder.
No one could understand what pain Laura Smalls was suffering from. And that could be true for any number of reasons. Something awful was going on in Laura Smalls' brain, and she drew it to the worst possible conclusion.
Coming up, a mysterious death leads Kenda to a revelation no one saw coming.
A moment in time becomes a moment of madness. And he starts to panic. Have I gone too far?
Officer Huddleston is cruising along in the wee hours of the morning in Colorado Springs. He's going nuts because he's having to stop at light after light after light.
Oh, come on, really? Every red light?
Car 31, please respond to the 200 block of South Prospect Avenue. Reports of an unconscious male needing assistance.
31-10-4 en route.
I think he was relieved to have something to do. He can turn his license sirens on and go.
Car 31, 1097 on scene.
Because this call was an unconscious male, the situation is unknown.
Police!
Wake up, Tim. Tim, talk to me. Tim.
All right, back up. Move. Give me space. Move. Hey. 31, tell EMS to step it up. I'm starting CPR on one.
Guy appears to still be alive, but he starts doing CPR.
Wake up, Tim.
He was not having a lot of luck reviving. EMT arrived on the scene, loaded him into the ambulance, then headed toward the hospital.
With a victim en route to the ER, officers attempt to speak with the eyewitnesses. When they refuse to offer up any additional information, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is summoned to the scene.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Allison,
We have one male unresponsive when I got here. His ID is Timothy McClure, 27 years of age. Medical took him off. He's pronounced DOA.
What's the cause of death?
Unknown at this point.
There were no visible injuries on the victim. So now we got to figure out, why did this person die? And that's only going to be done by the coroner's office.
Who are these folks here?
Outside this apartment are 4 people, sitting on the grass in handcuffs, put there by the patrol officers who responded.
Those are his roommates.
Let me guess, no one's saying anything.
You got it.
All right, let's get him down to the station and see if Rich is available to talk to him. I'll be down as soon as I take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
It's obvious to see there was a struggle in this apartment. Things are out of place, things are thrown about, bottles are broken. There's also a clump of human hair in the floor that's been ripped out of somebody's head. As you move down the hallway, there's 2 holes in the drywall, obviously from human feet. Somebody kicked 2 holes in the wall. This disturbance goes on throughout this apartment. It's not that big.
The coroner's office just called. Wanted to know if you were coming by the morgue. Apparently the family's been informed of his death. They're down there to confirm the identity of the body.
Okay, thanks. I'll head out now.
Yes, sir.
Inside the morgue, the examination of Timothy McClure's body has already begun.
Hello, Lieutenant. How you doing, Doc? It's cold in here.
When a body is deceased, putrefaction or decomposition begins immediately. Morgues, by their nature, are kept at low temperatures to assist in slowing the process before examination can be conducted.
So what do we got? I understand there were no visible injuries on the victim's body?
That's correct.
So you're thinking death by strangulation?
Possibly, but I'm not seeing anything you would expect to find in that case.
The hyoid bone, which is part of the throat structure, is intact. In most cases of strangulation, the hyoid bone is fractured. This is not the case.
It's somewhat odd, but there's hemorrhaging in the whites of his eyes, which is a sign of asphyxia.
Without that fracture in the hyoid bone, he can't say manual strangulation, and he's unwilling to say ligature strangulation. So he says this is most likely homicidal as to manner of death. As to method, I'm not certain.
With more questions than answers, Kenda meets with Timothy's mother, Barbara Marsh.
I know this is very difficult. How about I ask you a few questions? What can you tell me about Timothy? Is there anything you think I should know?
He was really getting his life together. He was such a great son and a great father.
She says he's an enrolled student at Pikes Peak Community College, and he's studying to be a lab technician.
Timothy had been married once before. He was a father of 3. The kids were in another state with his ex-wife, but he cared about his kids.
So we ask, where does Timothy live? She says, Timothy lives with us. He lives with his parents. But he dates this girl named Deborah Lincoln.
That's where they found him, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. How was his relationship with this Deborah?
Good as far as I know.
So you think about the common causes of homicide, money, sex, and revenge, and you think, well, maybe we're looking at a relationship problem here.
Again, I'm very sorry for your loss.
After speaking to Timothy's mother, Kenda seeks out Timothy's girlfriend, Deborah Lincoln.
They just told me Tim died. I was just with him earlier.
Deborah Lincoln is extremely emotionally distraught by the news that Timothy McClure is deceased.
Do you get along with your roommates?
Yes, we all know each other from school. We get along fine.
She said, well, there's a guy, Joe Minnerly, and this girl named Leah Hawkins, and we all kind of live there, and Timothy occasionally stays there with...
There's always someone crashing on the couch.
It is that animal house dynamic that you see more often in college situations where you got people coming and going, and so-and-so's friend wants to stay for a week.
This is something that bothers Tim because they're not paying rent.
Was there anyone staying there last night that wasn't a roommate?
There was someone sleeping on the couch when I got home last night.
Deborah says she got home late. She noticed somebody sleeping on the couch. But given the history of this place, she didn't find that to be that unusual.
We are going to need more whiskey.
We always need more whiskey, man.
Timothy McClure is having drinks with roommate Joe.
Hey, who's the dude on the couch?
I don't know, he's one of Leah's friends. I don't even know the guy's name.
Well, I'm going to bed. You coming in soon, Tim?
Yeah, in a few, okay? We're gonna finish the game first.
Okay. Good night.
She said sometime in the middle of the night, Timothy came to bed, and she just knew he was really drunk.
He reeks, and so she's like, would you just get out of here? She was just going to sleep on the couch in the living room or on the floor or something. And all of a sudden, she's starting to hear a lot of commotion.
Hey, I got early class in the morning.
She was going to lay down the law and knock it off.
Come on, people.
But it wasn't what she encountered.
Oh my God.
Tim!
Oh, Tim. I still don't know what happened. You separated us before we could talk. But I know one of those 3 did this to Tim.
Why don't you sit tight? I'll sort through all this. Thank you.
So as far as we're concerned, for now, Deborah is truthful.
Hey, Brian, have you spoken to any 3 witnesses yet?
I talked to 2 of them, Joe and Leah. They're the other 2 roommates. Their stories match up, and both of them point the finger at the 3rd witness.
The one you haven't spoken to yet?
Right. He was apparently asleep on the couch. His name is Alonzo Teja.
So see what Mr. Teja has to say.
So Kenda goes down to the interrogation room where Alonzo's being held. He's looking through the two-way mirror, but the thing that caught Joe's attention was this guy's eyes. They were white, like completely white.
So what's the deal with his eyes?
Apparently, Mr. Teja is blind.
Blind?
That's right.
So we have a guy who's been accused and identified as a killer, and he is completely blind. Well, this is a very new one to me. I've never dealt with a blind killer before. This ought to be really interesting. Timothy McClure. It's rather odd. The method has not been determined. We have witnesses who claim the person responsible is Alonzo Teja. The complication with Alonzo is he's blind. So now we're in the process of discussing this case with Alonzo.
Mr. Teja, you have some explaining to do.
Yeah, I know.
So what were you doing at the apartment? Are you friends with someone who lives there?
Not really. I met Leah yesterday for the first time.
He explains that he met Leah outside a shelter in Colorado Springs that caters to homeless people.
Leah, one of the other roommates, had stayed there for a short time herself, and she had quite a bit of empathy for people staying there.
According to Alonzo, Leah was there to visit one of her friends who was still staying at the shelter.
What's the matter?
Someone stole my sleeping bag. They won't let me stay here without my bag.
Man, that sucks. You could stay with me for a little while.
She said I could crash on her couch rather than on a street that night.
He accepts Leah's invite and is sleeping on the couch when he's confronted by Tim.
Get up! Get out now!
What?
Get out right now! Leah said I could stay here. I don't know who he was, but he started attacking me for no reason.
He goes on to say, the next thing I know, I got a guy that gouged my eyes out and pull out a clump of my hair. Well, thinking back to that crime scene, there is a clump of hair on the floor.
He almost had me on the ground, but I got control.
Alonzo wrestled in high school, so he was taught kind of let the person come into me so I can grab them and control them and take them down.
He's basically applying a chokehold. In the 70s, police would often use that technique to cause a prisoner to pass out. And he keeps doing that until he feels Timothy go limp.
That's when I heard all these other voices yelling at me to stop. I didn't mean to hurt him, I swear.
This is starting to make perfect sense to me that this is not a criminal act. This is an act of self-defense that goes too far.
Stay put, I'll be right back.
So what do you think? It's pretty much what the other two witnesses said, right? Timothy's been drinking, expresses his displeasure for all the strangers coming and going outside the apartment.
Girlfriend mentioned the same thing.
Yeah.
After reviewing the case, investigators believe Timothy McClure instigated the entire incident.
Alonzo Teja is sleeping on a couch as he was invited to do. Timothy McClure, for whatever reason, alcohol, bad mood, mixture of both, decides he wants Alonzo out of this apartment.
Get out!
What?
Get out!
What's your problem, man?
Tim does not want freeloaders, I guess for the lack of a better term, sleeping on his couch and not contributing. And he's been drinking, so he's not thinking clearly.
Blind people's senses are hyperactive to compensate for blindness. And he maneuvers Timothy so he's behind him. Alonzo puts his right arm around Timothy's neck, applies pressure. So much pressure that he's literally strangling Timothy with his forearm.
You ready to give up? Don't start fight the blind man.
Of course, Timothy isn't answering him because he literally cannot breathe. But Alonzo thinks he's not answering him because he still wants to fight.
Hey, man, what the hell? Get off, man.
Alonzo, let him go.
Get off and let him go.
Oh my God.
Damn.
It's too late. He has restricted his air supply for too long. He has made the chokehold a fatal hold, which is why the police stopped doing it in the 70s. You can kill somebody without meaning to. That's precisely what Alonzo did.
Wake up, Tim. Tim.
Let's go arrest him. Today, how many place you under arrest? You
Please stand up.
We're not going to release him on his own recognizance until we determine if criminal charges are possible.
This way.
We therefore refer this case to the El Paso County Grand Jury. The grand jury focused on a legal principle known as mens rea. Mens rea, basically freely translated, means the guilty mind. To commit a crime, you must willfully and knowingly do something that's against the law.
It was determined that Alonzo was basically acting in self-defense. He did not intend to hurt or kill Tim. And that's what ultimately resulted in an acquittal of charges.
This was a ridiculously avoidable death. Timothy had no idea that he was essentially waking a sleeping tiger, and Alonzo really had no idea how effective he was at the chokehold. It was just a really sad situation.
When you mix alcohol and youth together and put them in a place where no one's real sure who's in charge, it's not going to result in anything but trouble, and it certainly did. With a capital T.
A mother of two is found dead in an abandoned warehouse.
There is a shoelace around her neck.
This was a savage attack. It's absolutely barbaric.
Are those bite marks?
This shows a degree of animalistic aggression.
There's predators out there in all walks of life.
To catch this monster, investigators' only hope is to piece together the victim's romantic life.
It was not a cut and dried case.
Let me out!
One clue had to lead to another.
No, we're starting to cook on all 8 cylinders. Give a competent detective one fact, just one, and he will take that fact and move in that direction at warp speed. It is the nature of the work to take a single small thing and make it a big thing. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
I just finished my junior year in high school, and I was hanging out with my friends.
Come on, guys, hurry up. Never said the party was going to be here.
We pulled up into a vacant parking lot of a warehouse in the middle of nowhere.
Larry, stop whining. Why does it even matter?
I assumed just from past parties that I was either going to be in a field, maybe a bonfire with some beer and alcohol, or at somebody's house.
Dude, this is trespassing. Let's get out of here. Man, would you chill out? We're already here. Oh! Hey, good to see you, girl. What's going on with you? Yeah? Working this party? Yeah. It's a sweet spot. I like it here. Okay. Yeah, I'll see you around. Hey, man, come on, let's get out of here.
And he said, no one's going home. I knew that they were not going to take me back until the party was over.
Dude, I'm gonna go explore. This place is cool. See you later.
So he's looking around and he sees a pile of insulation. And something caught his eye. He says something twinkled.
Haha, very funny. I can see you laying there.
And he's thinking maybe it was one of his cohorts playing a game on him. Kids will do that.
You can stop playing now.
We sort of laughed it off because throughout the evening people were jumping out of
The shadows.
Oh my God.
Tim just walked into the area that me and the other people had been drinking and said he had found a dead body. And I looked down and I was terrified. Probably the most scared I've been in my entire life.
Across town, Sergeant Joe Kenda is working late, finishing up paperwork.
At the time, I was a sergeant in the homicide unit.
Hey, Sergeant. Yeah, will you up You're not working any murders right now, are you?
I said, no, not at the moment. What do you have?
We just got a call about a Jane Doe. Found in one of the warehouses out in the foreign trade zone. Drennan Road.
Isn't that El Paso County's territory?
Yeah, but the phone call came here first, and we're closer, so we're securing the area.
They had developed a foreign trade zone, which was designed to permit international business to take place without paying local taxes.
I need to check to see if she matches any one of our missing persons, especially the one we got in yesterday.
That's not like a typical missing person report. We have a mother that didn't return home.
Something is very wrong about this woman missing in the manner in which she is.
Family can't get in contact with her. Said this has never happened before.
All right, I'm on it. Thanks.
Abandoned buildings always attract the element of society that engages in illegal behavior because they are places where people are not, and thus you are not observable. No one sees you. No one knows you're there.
Hey, Sergeant. How you doing?
I'm all right. So what we got?
They confirmed that this is in fact a Caucasian female in her late 20s or early 30s.
She's been there?
I'd say at least 48 hours. El Paso detectives are here.
All right. Thanks. Sir.
We're both in the same business.
Detective Hastings?
Hey, Kenda. How you doing?
The cooperation between the two agencies is excellent.
What brings you out here?
I know it's a long shot, but I wanted to offer assistance in IDing the victim.
Let's go take a look.
We have a missing persons bureau, so does the sheriff's department. But ours contains many more missing persons than theirs do, because the population of the city is much greater than the population of the county.
Got drag marks from outside, coming all the way inside.
The drag marks on the floor indicated that this person was killed in one place and dragged to another. The obvious intent of that dragging was to try to conceal the remains.
They did a poor job of hiding the body.
And they sure did.
The effort to conceal was very amateurish, since about a third of her body was exposed to view.
Well, looks like we found our manner of death.
We've got a garrote.
Looks like it.
A garrote is a technique where you approach someone from behind, you draw a ligature around the front part of the neck, and you draw both sides from behind. When there is a ligature used in that manner, it produces a deep, deep, very dark bruise, approximately the width of the device. It's a very obvious mark, and it's the same size as the shoelace that's still draped over the shoulders and around the front of the neck.
Bet that shoelace is on a missing shoe. Did we ever find the other one?
No, but we're still canvassing.
Wouldn't be surprised if this guy was military or ex-military.
Agreed.
This technique is commonly taught to militaries around the world as a method of close-quarter combat and a method of attacking and killing a sentry.
It takes several minutes to kill someone by strangulation. It's absolutely barbaric.
So what do you say? Any resemblance to your missing person?
As a matter of fact, yes. If you guys can send me over some photos, I'll give you a call when we have some sort of confirmation.
Definitely.
Joe. Hey, Gary.
Detective Sergeant Gary Brown was the homicide sergeant with the Sheriff's Department.
I'll give you a call when we know more.
All right, thanks.
In this particular case, there's no fingerprints. There's shoe prints. There is a piece of drywall that has a very clear shoe print of an athletic shoe.
Let's get this drywall into evidence, okay?
As El Paso Sheriff's detectives continue their investigation, Kenda returns to CSPD headquarters.
That's everything we have on the missing person. Timeline fits with a 48-hour window.
Wow, she sure looks similar.
Jerry has a photograph of this woman brought to him by her family.
Jan Baker, 41 years old.
Yeah, look at this. Last seen wearing blue slacks.
This really could be her.
Yeah, we're gonna need more.
Now, many people look very similar. I've had others identify their own sons, and it's not their kid. You can't rely on facial features for identification.
Look here, she was a nurse's aide.
She had to have a background check to work in a nursing home, so we had fingerprints on file.
Let's get these down to the lab, see if they match our Jane Doe.
Will do.
Later that morning, the El Paso Sheriff's detectives head over to the morgue.
What do you got?
We got a confirmation on the Jane Doe.
They positively identified the remains as those of Jan Baker. That's one and the same. Our body is that woman.
Jan Baker was a 41-year-old single mom. She was divorced. Her ex-husband lived back east, so he wasn't really in the picture.
My mother was a hard worker, fun-loving, would do anything for us, to keep us safe.
She worked in the medical field. She was trying to make ends meet, raising these two teenage sons by herself.
The coroner determines that the method of death was ligature strangulation.
The autopsy's not completed yet, but take a look at this.
Are those bite marks?
Yeah, that's right.
So this was a savage attack.
What kind of a monster would do this to this woman? Somebody's going to pay for this. I'm going to see to it. We have a white female murdered in the foreign trade zone off Drennan Road in El Paso County. The coroner positively identified remains as those of Jan Baker, reported missing on June the 1st.
The autopsy also provides investigators with another disturbing clue.
There were bite marks on her breast, showing a degree of animalistic aggression towards this female.
Teeth impressions are somewhat like fingerprint impressions, which is an important...
Jan Baker was reported missing by her two teenage sons, who she lived with. We are faced with the unenviable task of going to the home and explaining that their mother has been found.
How you doing? Thanks for coming, Joe. Of course. Is this place?
This is it.
Informing the family of the victim is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Department, but we work often as one unit. Even though we're not, we offer assistance to each other routinely. It's always difficult to give a death notification. I've done it too many times. So have the Sheriff's Department. So has every policeman.
They showed up at the house.
What's your name?
Mark Baker.
I had that real bad sinking feeling that something's not right here.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
Is there anyone else inside the house?
Just my brother, Scott.
You guys want to come inside?
Sure.
You can see it in their face. They know why you're there before you open your mouth.
They said that they found the body of my mother. Broke down right there.
We know how difficult this must be. We're going to catch the person that did this, but we need your help.
I was just shocked. I must have cried for like days and days.
When was the last time you saw your mom?
Well, it was June 1st, around 1 o'clock.
Yeah, she had just dropped us off at the fun park.
She took them to a go-kart area where they could have some fun.
All right, here's some money for the vending machines. Okay, you two, be careful.
Thanks, Mom. Hey, can we get a ride home?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna run errands later, and then I'm going out. I'll let you know if I'm gonna be late. All right? Have fun. Love you.
Love you too.
So she wasn't home for dinner?
No, she had already gone out.
You know, you're 41 years old. You're still young enough to want to go out and meet people.
If something came up, she would always call us, but that night she didn't, and we started to get worried.
She would definitely check in with the kids and was usually home by 11:30 every night.
We called the guy she's going out with, but he said he hadn't seen her all night.
Who was she going out with?
A guy named Edwin Cole.
Well, Jan's sons tell police that she was going out on a date with Edwin Cole, who was somebody that she had been dating for a while.
Can you give us his information?
Yeah, of course.
And so obviously he was probably the last person to see her alive, and so he'd be the first person that they'd want to talk to.
Do you have any relatives staying with you?
Well, our dad's flying in, and he'll be here later today.
The street. You just walk in there and ask for me, okay? We're very sorry.
Edwin Cole has some explaining to do. If you were the last person with this woman, and this woman was murdered probably that same night, what exactly were you doing when you were with her? Were you killing her?
So, I'm gonna head back to the operations center, see if I can find this guy.
All right, let me know if he's in the city. I'll send him back to you.
Sure.
It turns out to be quite simple to find Edwin Cole. He is employed by the United States Postal Service. He's at work on his route of mail delivery.
Edwin Cole?
Yeah?
My name is Detective James Hastings. This is Detective Gary Brown. Are you familiar with a woman by the name of Jan Baker?
Yeah, of course. You know, the boys were calling me about her Friday morning. Okay.
Mr. Cole, I'm afraid I have to inform you that Miss Baker is dead.
What? He is absolutely struck by this. Total shock. Was not aware she was dead.
When did you see her last?
Oh my God, this is all my fault. I stood her up.
He had decided he wanted to end the relationship. And so instead of meeting her like they had planned, he just decides to stand her up.
Mr. Cole, the person who killed Ms. Baker is solely responsible and no one else. Can you tell me where you were going to meet up with her?
Yeah, the south side of the city. There's a Springs Motor Inn. There's a bar there where we used to meet in the past.
Mr. Cole is able to describe his exact whereabouts and who he was with during the time frame of this homicide. And they check out that information. He's no longer a suspect in this case.
Thank you.
It's the nature of investigation. You become so thrilled about someone, and then it collapses before your eyes.
Now, we can go to the Springs Motor Inn and talk to the people that were working in that lounge that night to find out, did Jan show up here?
Hey, can I help you?
So they make contact with Lisa Johnson, who is the bartender at the Springs Motor Inn.
Castle County Sheriff's Office. Do you recognize this woman?
Of course, that's Jan.
When was the last time you saw her?
I think it was Thursday night.
So they now know that she at least started her evening at the Springs Motor Inn.
Yeah, she was sitting right there, talking to some army guy.
Well, my. Who might that be? To discover her last known location was the Springs Motor Inn motel that had a restaurant bar. And this was close to where Jan Baker lived.
El Paso Sheriff's detectives speak with the bartender who was working the night Jan Baker disappeared.
That son of a bitch Edwin stood her up. I think she had a few drinks before she was talking to that army guy.
Seat taken?
No, it's not.
Can I buy you a drink?
She was a lonely woman that had been stood up on a date. She already had a couple of drinks and wanted to talk about what was going on in her life.
You have this guy maybe sit down and offer to buy you a drink, and it's like, hey, you know, here's somebody who's being nice to me, and maybe she felt safe because he told her he was in the army.
So, who is this jerk anyway?
Nobody. Just some guy I've been seeing.
He doesn't know what he's missing. I'd be willing to go AWOL and miss a date with someone like you.
The bartender remembers remembers him saying to Jan that he was in the process of transferring from Fort Carson to Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
What do you say we get out of here? We'll have some fun, huh?
Sure. Why not? Go.
Then they just left. Said they were gonna go bar hopping. Maybe head over to the Red Lion.
Is there anything else you can remember about him?
The bartender said this individual was probably in his middle 30s and had red hair and a short military haircut.
Just your typical army guy. We get him staying here at the motel all the time.
Did he actually say he was staying at the motel?
No, I just kind of got that feeling.
May we speak with the owner?
Of course. He's in the front office.
That's another lead. Let's check and see if we have anybody registered that may be associated with the military base out at Fort Carson.
In the time that this incident occurred, you had to fill out a registration card.
Can I help you, detectives?
With your name, your place of employment, your phone number, all kinds of information as required.
Someone who was possibly staying here Saturday night is a person of interest in an investigation. I wonder if you see the files from June 1st through the morning of June 2nd. Don't see why not.
If the bartender is correct, and he's a resident of this hotel, they will have that information on the registration card. So when they reviewed these registration cards, they determined there were 9 guests in the hotel who listed their occupation as United States Army.
Thanks.
Investigators then went to Fort Carson and met with CID, and that's a Criminal Investigative Command. Sort of like the FBI within the
9 soldiers who stayed at the Springs Motor Inn.
We believe one of your NCOs is a person of interest in an investigation that we're covering. I believe our office faxed over some information to you.
Yeah, we cross-referenced it. 3 of the names on the list were our guys.
Red hair, transferring soon to Fort Sill. Got anyone like that?
Yes, sir. This third one looks like a pretty good match.
What's his name?
Ricky C. Perryman.
Not only does Sergeant Perryman resemble their suspect, he happens to have an intriguing military record.
There's a couple of notes about discipline.
Insubordination?
No. Actually, he's overly enthusiastic of the discipline of others.
He believes he is in charge of everyone. And if he tells you to do something and you question why you should do it, he becomes instantly enraged. What happens when Jan Baker says no to a personality that doesn't take no for an answer?
Can I use your phone?
Of course.
So we know that Perryman is in contact with Jan Baker late in the evening of the 1st of June.
Sheriff's Department.
It's Detective Hastings.
How are you?
I need detectives sent to the Springs Motor Inn.
All right, man.
We need any information about the room being occupied by
A Ricky Perryman on June 1.
No worries. I'm happy to help.
When did he check out? Where was he, given the time frame involved?
Thank you.
So the only thing that doesn't add up is this guy's going abroad, not to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He's stationed in Germany.
I don't know why that seems so odd. Makes perfect sense to me that a murderer could also be a liar. Any idea where he could be?
No, sir.
So this person is in limbo.
He's off our radar until he reports in to be transported to Germany next month. You can ask his wife.
He's married?
Says he just got married back in May. She's employed at the Broadmoor Hotel.
Thanks so much for your help.
Great lead. Okay, now we've got something else. Another piece of that puzzle that we're connecting to get that bigger picture.
Detectives respond to the Broadmoor Hotel. They make contact with her.
Excuse me. Are you the wife of Ricky Perryman?
Yes. Can I help you?
Detectives Brown and Hastings from El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Do we have a more private place to speak?
Okay. Let me take a break.
Well, Mrs. Perryman tells police that between the 2 of them, they have 5 kids through different marriages that they've had or relationships. And actually, they've only been married for about a month.
What's this all about?
We have reason to believe your husband has some information for us, but we're not able to locate him.
Okay.
Miss Perryman, can I ask?
Ricky and I have been fighting a lot lately. About 5 days ago, we were in the car and he crossed the line.
You're supposed to be navigating.
Where are we?
I'm sorry.
we were supposed to make a left on Bryant Beach.
How can you not know that? It's on the map. I asked you to do one thing. You need to pay attention to what I say to you. I'm the king. Now, you're not going anywhere.
Let me out! And then he hit me so hard, and it was over nothing. I just couldn't believe it.
And when she said, "Why did you hit me?" his response was, "I am the king."
What does he mean when he says, "I'm the king"?
You know, like he's the boss. He's in charge, and I need to obey him.
And if she didn't, he would hit her, assault her, and call her names.
So already that tells police right there that Ricky Perryman is a violent man.
Now, isn't that interesting? So Mr. Perryman fits to a T, not a little bit, but totally.
He called me afterwards and told me he was staying in a hotel that night and that he was going to his brother's the next day. He said he wanted to work things out, but I told him I'd have to see.
His brother. Do you have his name and contact information?
I don't even know his brother's name, but he lives in Ricky's hometown in Oklahoma.
So he left her in the afternoon of June the 1st. She hadn't seen him since.
Where did you say he was going?
Lawton, Oklahoma. His brother's there.
You know what else is in Lawton, Oklahoma?
Lawton, Oklahoma happens to be the location of Fort Sill.
And in this particular case, he probably knew he was going to Oklahoma to visit his brother, but he tells Jan Baker, "Oh, I'm going to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because I'm being transferred out there." Okay. Part true, part lie.
Thank you, Mr. Perryman. We will be in touch.
While Hastings and Brown head back to the sheriff's department, their team is making progress at the Springs Inn.
This is the room the gentleman stayed in. Actually, nobody's even been in here since.
And how would you describe the state of the room when he checked out?
It was like nobody even stayed here. All I had to clean was the bathroom.
The detectives at the hotel further determined that someone took a shower, but no one ever went to bed in that room.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I didn't even have to make the bed. It was untouched.
Okay, thanks for your help.
Well, right away you're thinking, he left in quite the hurry to get to Oklahoma.
So where was he? Between 10 and 11 and 4 in the morning. He wasn't in bed in that room. Mr. Perryman is in deep trouble. Detectives are investigating the death of Jan Baker. That investigation has revealed a prime suspect in her disappearance and probably in her death as well. His name is Ricky Cecil Perryman, 35 years of age, active duty Army.
With Sergeant Perryman believed to be out of the state, the El Paso Sheriff's detectives need help locating him.
Oklahoma Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, hello, this is Detective Hastings from the El Paso County Sheriff's Department in Colorado.
It's not uncommon for law enforcement agencies to reach out and seek help from other law enforcement agencies.
Well, hey, Detective, what can we do for you today?
When you said we're working in an active homicide case, there's this person that was last known to be with our victim, and we believe this person's in your city.
We'll certainly do what we can to help.
Great, thank you.
And they ascertained Perryman's brother's address, and they asked the Sheriff's Department to make a drive-by and see if Perryman's car is there.
I've got eyes on a vehicle with Colorado tags. Am I making contact?
Negative. Return to patrol.
El Paso County detectives cannot instruct the Sheriff's Department in Oklahoma to arrest Perryman because they don't have any grounds. What they do need to do is get on an airplane and fly to Lawton, Oklahoma, and have a conversation with Mr. Perryman.
Detectives will need to convince their suspect to come in for an interrogation. But that turns out to be far easier than expected.
Hi, my name is Ricky Perryman. I'd like to find out why you guys are surveilling me.
It's as if he either knew he was being looked for, or perhaps his wife called him and said that the detectives had interviewed her.
Mr. Perryman, we're working with the El Paso Sheriff's Department. It appears they're looking to ask you some questions about an open investigation.
Well, I'd be happy to talk to him.
Okay, great.
So he gave himself to that law enforcement agency while investigators in Colorado Springs flew to Oklahoma to do the interview.
So, Mr. Perryman, you now have an opportunity to explain yourself, and you better be exceptionally good at it. because we have a lot of questions for you.
So, what's this all about?
Do you recognize this one?
Sure. We hung out at the Motor Springs Inn last Thursday night. We actually went to a couple bars together.
The Pervin kept saying, I was lonely, I was fighting with my wife. So yeah, we kissed several times.
Did you have sexual relations with that woman?
It didn't get that far.
Mr. Perryman says he was going to bring her back to the hotel to be...
He said when we left the last bar we were in and got out in the parking lot, she just threw up everywhere.
Are you okay?
I'll be fine.
And, that kind of killed the mood, if you know what I mean. And then she said that she was leaving and that she didn't need my help getting home.
He left her alone in the parking lot of the Springs Motor Inn, and he went to his room by himself.
So you left the hotel and checked out at 4 o'clock in the morning. Kind of early, right?
He says, well, I couldn't sleep, I wasn't tired, I took a shower, I just wanted to get a head start on the drive to Oklahoma, so I left, and I drove to Oklahoma from that motel.
I think we have a problem, Mr. Perryman. You see, Jan Baker was found murdered, and you were the last person to see her alive.
Wait, what? She's dead. That's terrible.
Mr. Perryman offers nothing but denial.
Her body was found in an abandoned building in the foreign trade zone.
What's the foreign trade zone?
Detectives already knew that he drove by there every day on his way to work to Fort Carson. So they weren't buying the fact that he didn't know that building even existed.
Ricky, if you're willing, would you do some tests for us?
Sure. Like what?
He's very cooperative. We want to keep that cooperation going.
We want to run some forensic tests. Hair, blood samples. We'd also like to get impressions of your teeth. You'd be willing to do that for us?
Sure. Whatever you need. I have nothing to hide.
But before they release Perryman, something else catches their eye.
He is wearing a pair of pro-wing athletic shoes. Shoes can be examined like fingerprints. Nobody walks the same way. There are different wear patterns on shoes.
Those your only pair of sneakers?
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Would you mind if we take those back to the lab with us as well?
Sure. Whatever you need.
Put them in this bag, please.
It's not unheard of that a person of interest would be so forthcoming. Ricky Perryman laid a smooth plate out there for everybody to see. This is what happened that evening, and it had nothing to do with the murder.
I really hope you guys are writing all this down in your report. That I'm cooperating and giving you everything you need.
Your cooperation will be noted.
They ask him where he's going. He says he's going back to his brothers. They inform him they'll be in touch with him as time wears on.
While the samples are sent to the labs for testing, the detectives head back to Colorado to wait for the results. The team has high hopes that Sergeant Ricky Perryman's teeth impressions will match the bite mark.
Then a forensic odontologist could certainly testify that yes, this person committed this bite.
Detective?
What is it?
This just came for you. It's from the forensic odontologist.
Thanks. Damn it.
What is it?
Bite marks are inconclusive. I can't prove if Perryman's responsible or not.
Unfortunately, with Jan Baker, being bit on the breast is a very fleshy area. It's not like an arm where the bite's going to be very hard and very consistent. It's not going to be an exact bite.
There is a certain nervousness that carries on through these cases, that you're always worried that you're not going to solve this one.
But there's still one test that can make or break the case.
Hastings.
This is the lab in Pueblo. We have the result of that shoe print.
Yeah?
The examiner says that. The wear patterns and distinctive marks on the sole of Mr. Perryman's shoe matches perfectly with the shoe print on the drywall at the crime scene.
So that linked Ricky Perryman to Jan Baker and the crime scene. They made a positive identification, without a doubt.
Okay, thanks.
We got him. Let's go pick him up.
Mr. Perryman is no longer a person of interest. He's prime suspect, and he is a defendant, and we have a warrant that says so. When detectives from the sheriff's department discovered the remains of Jan Baker in an abandoned warehouse, they had their work cut out for them. But after a long and intense investigation,
That shoe absolutely made that print.
it resulted in enough evidence to charge Ricky Perryman in the death of Jan Baker.
With Sergeant Ricky Perryman now back home in Colorado, the El Paso Sheriff's Office closes in for the arrest.
Step outside, please. Ricky C. Perryman, you're under arrest for murder.
I want a lawyer. They inform him that's fine, that is his right. They took him back to the state of Colorado to face charges.
Even without a confession, detectives are able to reconstruct the events of June 1st.
So what have we learned in this evening with someone she likes? She is unaware of the fact that this individual no longer likes her, and he stands her up on purpose at this bar.
Don't worry about Edwin. It was his loss.
Yeah, maybe.
So here she is, distressed, upset, drinking, and along comes Ricky Cecil Perryman.
Seat taken?
No, it's not.
A nice-looking guy, great big guy, much bigger than her. They strike up a friendly conversation, one thing leads to another.
Can we get out of here? Go have a little fun?
Why not?
At some point, they leave this establishment, and somehow or other, they wind up together in an abandoned warehouse in the Ford Trade Center on Drennan Road.
Place that I drive by on my way to work. Thought I might be able to get some privacy here.
At this point, it's my opinion that Mr. Perryman advances toward her sexually.
You're really beautiful, you know that?
Thanks. Ricky, it's been fun. I got kids at home.
They're fine.
And for whatever reason, she decides to put a stop to it.
No, I mean it. Take me home. Maybe we can do this another time. This way.
We know enough about Mr. Perryman's personality to know that he's volatile.
Stop, let me go. You're crazy.
And when someone challenges his authority over someone, he becomes enraged.
You don't say no to me.
A struggle results.
You'll go when the king says you'll go.
He winds up pulling her shoelace out of her shoe.
Stop, let me go.
And he strangled her with it. And then drags her body off into a corner in a feeble attempt to hide the body. What he doesn't think about is he's wearing a pair of shoes he wears every day. He leaves footprints in and around the body and leaves it on a piece of drywall he ultimately tries to use as a cover of the remains. And then he leaves that premise, drives back to the Springs Motor Inn, checks out of his room, and drives to Oklahoma, thinking that no one will be the wiser.
Ricky Perryman is ultimately convicted of second-degree murder.
And that's where he's meant to be. Incarcerated, in prison, removed from society.
I think that her life was stolen from her at a pivotal point. She didn't even get the chance to be, a grandmother. She didn't get the chance to see what her kids would have grown up to accomplish. And that's a shame.
I believe Mr. Perryman had a rage within his system that he couldn't control. And everybody that knew him said that about him. This crime says that about him as well.
circumstances.
The victim pretty much drowned in his own blood.
What a horrible way to go.
As Lieutenant Joe Kenda and his team delve into the victim's personal life,
He was convinced that she was in love with him.
You can't make her love you.
they uncover a dangerous secret.
That brings in jealousy and hatred and rage.
Sometimes terrible things happen that were never intended. I am always suspicious of people who are found at crime scenes. Of all the places you could be right now, why are you at this one? There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's closing in on midnight, and most of the residents on West Navajo Street have gone to bed. Except for Kathleen Herzl.
She just decided to stay home this particular Tuesday evening. She was flipping through a magazine, listening to a cassette tape on her Walkman.
She's just being cozy in her apartment. And all of a sudden, she hears something that really catches her interest.
There's a young man, and he was covered in blood.
Across town, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is busy, performing an important ritual.
I would clean my weapon routinely once a week. I was always very careful to maintain it. That weapon is a self-defense weapon in the hands of a policeman. Your life depends on its condition. And I thought, well, I know who that is at 11 o'clock at night. It's Kenda. And it was Police Communications Center. Dispatch informs me there are multiple stabbing victims in an apartment in the southwest part of the city.
Okay, got it.
Minutes later, Kenda pulls up to a modest apartment complex, swarming with police activity.
Hey, Joe. Let's go. So we got a 23-year-old white male deceased, stabbed into the chest.
An individual named Timothy Bolton was the victim in this case. The crime scene was his apartment, which was on the ground level.
We discovered Mr. Bolton is a relatively new resident. He is not married, and he resides in an apartment by himself.
Did dispatch report multiple stab victims? Not that I'm aware of.
He informs me that there's no multiple victims at this location. That report was incorrect.
Called it in. One of the neighbors did.
It's very common that first reports are erroneous. You're dealing with emotional witnesses screaming into a telephone. Somebody's trying to translate that information into something meaningful, and it rarely is correct.
Any person of interest? Yeah, we got two. Really?
Upon the initial arrival of medical personnel, there were a couple of men that were outside and appeared to be engaged in some kind of disturbance.
Hey! Stop! No! Come here.
According to Detective Skip Arms, the men were identified as 22-year-old Mitchell Anderson and 21-year-old Matt Martin.
They both had blood on them and seemed intoxicated, so patrol brought them down to the station.
The police always grab everyone that is involved at a violent crime scene. They're going to, at a minimum, put you in custody momentarily to determine whether or not you are a material witness, whether you could be a suspect.
Let's take a look. Wow, what a mess.
Yep. The scene is very bloody. underneath him, as well as around him and on him.
And what was unusual is that his feet were propped up on a coffee table.
Did the EMTs prop his feet up?
No, sir. He was like that when they arrived.
Whoever did this must have Army experience.
The Army is trained, and is still true today, that if you suffer a massive traumatic injury to the chest, you are taught to elevate the legs, to cause the blood to drain from the legs into the torso to protect the major organs.
And unfortunately, it didn't do him much good.
Moving the shirt a little bit, you can see the wound. It's a single stab wound, and it's from the side, which is common in a knife attack.
So the wood of a kitchen knife. Was the murder weapon recovered?
No, not yet.
We did notice that there was one moccasin slipper in the living room.
Maybe it was left behind by our suspect at the scene.
So, did our killer leave his shoe without realizing it?
Check that out.
There was a spot on the wall that had some blood spatter, and then it was right where the floor and the wall came together.
Object made contact with that wall. Perhaps it was a knife. Perhaps the perpetrator then grabbed it as they were running out that front door.
Want to be sure to get up?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go.
I head outside and I see a distressed young woman. I'm told her name is Lori Wheeler and she lives in an upstairs apartment above the victim.
So see what she has to say.
Lori lived there with her common-law husband, Mitchell Anderson, and their 3 young children.
Lieutenant Kenda, this is Detective Arms. I mind if we ask you a few questions?
Of course, go ahead.
She was very worried because Mitchell had been detained by the police, and she didn't know what was going on.
Can you tell us what happened here tonight?
Yeah, it was about 11, and I heard this pounding on the door. Who is it? Who is it?
Hey, no, I need to use your phone.
Some guy comes to her apartment, covered in blood, very, very distressed, and asking her to call an ambulance.
So I ran to the phone and called for help.
She said the man had a army fatigue jacket on and a white tank top, and he had blood all over him, and he was very upset.
And based on her description, it appeared that it was Matt Martin who had come to her door.
Were you at home alone when this happened?
Oh, no. My 3 kids were asleep. And so was Mitchell. But all the commotion woke Mitchell up. That guy was acting so crazy.
Lori explains that's when things spun out of control.
There's a crazy man here. He's covered in blood.
Then she claims that this guy turns around and just, slugs her husband, punches him right in the face.
So Mitchell chased after him.
Just step back for a second. Why did this guy punch Mitchell?
I don't know. I have no idea.
The more she talks, the less sense it makes. This stranger has a number of doors to select from, but he selects her door. And why would he assault Mitchell Anderson without comment?
How well do you know the victim, Tim Botham?
We'd say hello sometimes.
She says that she knows he moved in there a few months ago. She doesn't really know him.
I wish I could help you more, but I really don't know anything. I'd like to go back inside to see my kids.
It's a bizarre story, but at this point we have no reason to keep this young mother.
We'll notify if we have any other questions.
Do you know when my husband will be allowed to go home?
Well, I can't say for sure. Hopefully we'll get a statement and we can sort this all out quickly. I'll bring him back in.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking about our next move when all of a sudden...
Dispatch for Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
We have a report of a second stabbing?
Dispatch said there's another stabbing victim at St. Francis Hospital, which is very close to where we are.
What time are they admitted?
Around 23:30.
10-4, I'll send a detective over there to talk to him.
I think back to the moment in the garage when they said multiple stabbing victims. Well, maybe we've only found one so far, and now maybe we just found another. We're investigating the death of Mr. Timothy Bothan, and we've been told there's another victim in a hospital, also stabbed, from the same general part of the city.
Stabbings don't happen every day, and first thought was maybe this was somebody who was involved in the altercation with Tim.
So I send a detective, go over there and see what the deal is with that.
Within minutes, a detective arrives at St. Francis Hospital.
Hi, excuse me. I'm looking for who checked in a couple hours ago with a stab wound.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Jeremy Brown.
She says he transports himself to St. Francis Hospital with a serious cut to his hand.
He was pretty intoxicated when he came in. Something just seemed a little bit off, so we went ahead and reported it.
Sure.
The nurse calls the police because, in her opinion, it's a stab wound.
Do you mind if I talk to him?
Yeah, of course, tell me.
Great.
Hey, Jeremy. This detective would like to ask you some questions.
Hey. Jeremy Brown is a 30-year-old male. He tenses up when that detective walks in the room.
Jeremy, can you tell me how you got that nasty cut?
In the commercial district side.
I worked a double today. I was doing some last-minute prep work before I left. Guess I just wasn't thinking straight.
And one for the bartender. Cheers.
Mr. Brown had an unusual habit. Every time he served you a drink, he'd serve himself one. So Mr. Brown was a little bit under the weather at the time he's trying to cut limes with a bar knife. And he misses badly. Instead of the lime, he cuts himself.
Just cut my finger. Oh, damn. You're probably gonna need stitches for that. Any witnesses to back that story up?
Yeah, a couple of my coworkers saw it.
Okay. Could you give me some names, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
There was a misunderstanding. It's an unrelated work injury.
10-4, thanks for the update.
So Mr. Brown is not the victim of anything other than his own intoxication and his inability to handle a knife.
Hey, Detective. We canvassed the area. I found a neighbor who had contact with the victim earlier tonight.
That's guy right there?
Yeah.
Let's go talk to him.
So we contact a neighbor named Steve Mullinex. He reports he casually knows Mr. Bothan.
Detective Myers. So we know about what went on tonight?
Actually, I was in bed by 10, so I didn't really know much about what was going on at all until I heard the ambulance pull up. And, I still can't believe it. Literally was just talking to Tim a few hours ago.
And he tells us that actually earlier that evening, around 7 o'clock, Tim had come over to his apartment to use his telephone to call his mother.
Tim talked to my father before he died, and I think they talked about, coming to see him next summer. We grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was a middle child, and he was 5 years younger than me, and he's a baby of the family.
Okay, tell us about him.
Good guy. He was stationed here with the Army. Just recently got out, actually. He's just been trying to figure out what to do with himself since. And he seemed like a happy guy.
So it's interesting that Mr. Mullinex reports that in the earlier evening, Mr. Bothan is not distressed and is telling his mother how happy and good his life is right now.
Any idea what his plans were for the evening?
No. Although I did actually see him having a beer with a buddy of his outside of his a little while ago.
And you know what the friend's name was?
His Army buddy. Oh, man, what's his name? Matt.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So now we've placed Martin in that crime scene at around 8 o'clock. Did something go wrong between Mr. Martin and Mr. Bothan? And how did Mitchell Anderson become involved in this? We don't know. But we're going to find out. I'm about to leave that scene area to go back to headquarters when a car pulls up.
Where's Mitchell? The police are thinking, well, who is this and what?
Someone died.
They find out she's Mitchell's mother, Mardell Anderson, and she had overheard something on the telephone that caused her a lot of concern.
And she thought she better come down there because her concern was the 3 small children.
Well, the kids are fine. We're going to take your son down to the station and ask him a few questions about the incident. Now, Lori's upstairs with the kids.
Oh, thank goodness. Lately, things have been going so good for Mitch. But you know, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mardell tells police her son was a hard worker, that he worked during the day as a cook at a local restaurant, and he actually had just gotten some good news at his job. He was getting a promotion.
Do you know anything about the murder that happened here tonight?
Well, I did hear something when I was talking with Lori on the phone.
She had told police that Lori and Mitchell had gone out for dinner, and so she called Lori's house about 11 o'clock that evening to find out how things went.
And when Lori answered the phone, she sounded scared to death. And my son, he was arguing with some guy in the background. Lori, how was dinner?
Hi, I can't talk right now. The police are coming.
You need to get the hell out. What the I'm not going anywhere.
Lori tells her that Mitchell is arguing with some guy named Matt.
And then all of a sudden, Mardell hears her son, Mitchell, shout out, "Oh no, you killed him."
I gotta go. Lori! Lori!
And then the line went dead. That would encourage any mother to get her car and drive down there to find out what the hell was going on.
I'm so scared for those kids.
Mrs. Anderson seems completely believable. Her story implies that Matthew Martin is the person responsible for this death.
Do you know a man named Matt Martin?
No, I don't think so.
But why did Lori say that she didn't know him? So the question then becomes, Lori, who are you protecting? And we're going to get to the bottom of that, whether you like it or not. So we're investigating the death of Timothy Bothan, recently discharged from the United States Army. We have the witness, Mrs. Anderson, saying she overheard her son say, "You killed him." And those facts are beginning to point a shaky finger at Matt Martin.
When Matt Martin and Mitchell Anderson were first contacted, it certainly appeared that one or both of them was possibly under the influence of alcohol.
So maybe this murder is a result of a drunken brawl turned deadly.
I need a couple of officers to escort Matt Martin and Mitchell Anderson to Memorial Hospital, separately.
Copy that, Lieutenant.
We felt that it was important as quickly as possible to get them to the hospital to get a blood draw so we could determine what level of alcohol we're dealing with.
What about Lori? Now, let's bring her down to the station for a second interview. Maybe she'll remember more of the story.
Sure thing. What about our kids, though?
Lieutenant, Timothy Bothan's mother called looking for you. She said to call right away.
In a case of death notification for out-of-state people, we try to avoid a telephone notification because it's so impersonal.
Is that the number? Yeah.
Thanks.
We had the local agency respond to the parents' home. Tell them, then have them call us. There's nothing easy about doing that. There's no specific way to do it, and it's always horrible. It's the nature of the work. You have to do that.
I don't understand. This just can't be real.
As a mother, you'd be thinking, how horrible that my son had to go through something like that.
He had just decided to go to school and study electronics.
Tim was still finding himself, but I think he liked this city and he was gonna, stay here and see what he could do.
Do you know if Tim was having trouble with anyone?
If he did, he didn't tell me.
How about a Matt Martin?
Matt, I don't think so.
Mrs. Bothan had never met him, but knew that it was a friend of her son's from the Army.
I can't believe he's gone. What am I supposed to do?
I don't promise the mother that I will resolve this. I promise the mother that I will do everything humanly possible to resolve it.
I will be in touch.
Thank you.
I cannot bring her son back alive. That's the ultimate resolution. Something I cannot do. But I can at least advise the manner and method by which their son died and who is responsible for it.
The next call Kenda receives may get him one step closer to solving this case.
This Kenda.
We got a call from the coroner's office. Come over and see the results of the autopsy on Mr. Bothan.
Hey, Doc.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Did you find anything interesting?
You know me.
The coroner reports that there was a single stab wound that severed a major artery, punctured a lung.
He basically drowned to death on his own blood. Okay.
It's a fatal stab wound, the magic wound that kills you before anything can be done about it.
But I found something else I think you might want to know about. What's that? This wound here?
It was extremely superficial, but it was an incised wound, meaning it was caused by a sharp instrument, probably a knife.
Probably happened within the last week or so. I don't think it had anything to do with the fatal encounter.
It's interesting, but there's no way to tell if it had anything to do with the case.
Oh, sorry. Mind if I use your phone? Of course not.
Taking a page from the officer who took Matt Martin to the hospital to get his blood alcohol test done.
Okay.
While I was transporting him to the hospital, he made some spontaneous utterances.
So the officer says that Mr. Martin was extremely distraught. He seemed maybe remorseful even.
Hey, do I have blood on my face? I can feel it.
The officer said that Martin repeatedly said he never stabbed him. He tried everything he could to save his life.
I'm serious. I didn't kill him. I just grabbed the knife.
He did say at one point that he picked up the knife and threw it across the room, and it bounced off the wall and onto the ground.
So maybe he's telling the truth. Or maybe he's worried we'll find that knife with his fingerprints all over it. Who knows? It's all questions we need to explore when we get a chance to talk to Mr. Martin.
Well, I should be heading back to the station with him shortly. He's really emotional still. He may be hard to get a statement from.
Okay, thanks for the update. Hey, Doc, I gotta run.
Kenda. So I'm on my way back to the office, and Detective Arms gets a hold of me.
Go for Kenda. Received a telephone call from Cassie Feathers, and she identified herself as the babysitter for Lori's kids.
She says she might know who was responsible for his death. Great, have her meet me back at the station as soon as possible. I'll be there at 10.
So we sit down with Cassie, and she is very distressed about the fact that Mr. Bothan is dead.
This is so messed up. Why is Matt in custody for Tim's death? They were best friends.
Well, right now, Matt's a potential suspect in Tim's murder.
She says he can't possibly be responsible for this crime.
The only person I knew he was having any trouble with was Lori.
Lori Wheeler? His neighbor?
Yeah, I babysit for her and Mitchell all the time.
Interesting. Lori told us she doesn't know Matt or Tim, and apparently she knows both.
If she knows Tim.
It was her belief that probably, at least for the last 2 months, that Tim and Lori were getting friendly and seeing each other more.
I think they're having an affair.
Not only does Lori know Timothy Bothan, she's his lover. So Lori is lying about everything. Well, my. As we are investigating the murder of Tim Bothan, we're talking to the woman who babysits for the kids of Lori Wheeler and Mitchell Anderson. And now it appears we're dealing with a love triangle.
When we talked to Cassie, we had no reason to...
We're just friends, but you could tell there was something more going on. And then tonight, Tim was telling me about all these problems he's been having with Lori, and he was acting really jealous and weird.
I want you to tell us a little bit about what happened to her.
Okay.
So Cassie related to us that on this evening, Lori had called her and asked her to come babysit, and told her that Lori and Mitchell would be home by 9:30.
I put the kids to bed like I normally do when I come over, and I went outside and was hanging out with Matt and Tim.
It's almost 10 o'clock. I thought you said they were going to be back by 9:30. What the hell are they doing?
Tim, calm down, man. Freaking me out.
Sorry, man.
She believes that Tim is getting angry because he's thinking that Lori's out having a good time with Mitchell when he's under the belief that she doesn't want to be with him.
Tim did mention something about them having an argument.
Cassie goes on to say that on that same evening, he pulls up his shirt and shows her an injury, a minor injury on his arm.
You want to see something crazy?
Not really.
No, you gotta see this.
He tells Cassie that recently he and Lori got in an argument about Mitchell, that why don't you get rid of him and I can move in with you? And they fought about it. She pulled a knife and cut his arm.
Really?
I only know what he told me.
Now, when she said that, I remembered that the coroner had said he had a minor incised wound on his arm. That's interesting.
So when Lori and Mitchell came home?
Tim got really quiet when Laurie showed up.
Oh, hey, you guys.
Hey.
Cassie, how are the kids? They're fine. I read them like 4 books and they fell asleep.
Yeah.
Here's your money.
Thank you.
Mitchell's in the car.
Alrighty. See you later. Yeah. Thank you. Bye, guys.
See ya.
So where have you guys been all night?
Cassie says Mitchell was going to give her a ride home, and as she walked downstairs, she heard Tim questioning Lori.
Tim, come on and sleep.
Cassie says she was glad to get out of the situation, but when she got in the car with Mitchell...
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Cassie.
She realized he had been drinking.
I can just call someone else to come get me.
No. Don't be silly. I got it.
Unfortunately, she made a bad call getting into a car with a drunk, but she says she saw something interesting.
And as I was leaving, Tim and Lori were talking outside. And that was the last I saw of him before I heard Tim was dead.
We need to speak to Matthew Martin and Lori. But of those two, Lori is the most promising because she's the one who directly lied to us about everything.
Questions. Some of the stuff you told us didn't quite add up.
We told her we wanted to know the truth.
Well, what do you want to know?
Why don't you tell us about your relationship with Tim?
What? No, there was no relationship. We were just friends.
Lori, you need to shoot straight with us. We already know the truth.
Listen. Nothing was going on. But I confided in Tim that I wasn't sure if I should marry Mitchell. And then all of a sudden he was asking me out.
She says, he flirted with me a lot and asked me out several times, but I never went out with him.
I told Mitchell about it. But he didn't really care. He told me to just ignore him.
So she's denying there was an affair. Fine. Tell me what you know about Tim's death.
Why don't you walk us through what happened earlier tonight?
Well, Mitchell took me out to celebrate his new promotion.
She says that she was having a great time that evening with Mitchell.
Lori, I want to do right by you and the kids. I think it's time we get married.
Really?
Everything was just fine. In fact, they were even considering formal marriage.
It's time.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
I would love that. We must have lost track of time. When we got home, I saw Cassie outside talking to Tim and Matt.
Lori tells us that Mitchell left almost immediately with Cassie to take her home, and that Tim then confronted her.
So what have you guys been doing all night?
Tim, it's late.
No, I want to know. You guys have been gone for hours.
I should go check on the kids.
So what? You in love with him all of a sudden?
And that's when it got to be physical. She shoved him, he shoved her back.
Lori, I thought you were in love with me. Hey, stop. You okay?
And the fight was stopped by Matthew Martin.
And I ran back to my apartment. I couldn't stop crying.
She then says at that time Mitchell returns and sees her disheveled appearance and says, "What happened?" And she says, "Timothy hit me."
He was so angry. He ran outside, and I heard him fighting with Tim and Matt downstairs.
And then what happened?
Then he came back upstairs. I thought the whole thing just blew over.
And that's when Matt shows up at the door with blood all over him, saying you have to call an ambulance.
Listen, you need to tell us the truth. Did Mitchell stab Tim?
No.
Did you stab Tim?
No. Are we done here?
Yeah, we're done for now. But you're gonna have to wait holding until we straighten this thing out. We'll send someone in to get you.
Lori is in custody now for her involvement in this crime. Well, I don't think she stabbed Tim, but it's pretty clear she's directly involved.
Back in his office, Kenda is mulling over Lori's story.
Hey, boss. Got the toxicology report back.
So in the case of Matthew Martin, his blood alcohol content level is .030, relatively light. And in the case of Mitchell, it's .197. which is very high.
Wow. That's near blackout level.
Mitchell was essentially twice the legal limit.
Let's get a search warrant for Mitchell and Lori's place. I got a feeling we're gonna find some blood evidence there. And if we're lucky, a murder weapon. You got it, Lieutenant?
While they wait for the warrant to be processed, Kenda and Arms decide it's time to speak to Mitchell Anderson.
About time you guys showed up.
Mitchell is still intoxicated, although he's coherent, and he's able to answer questions.
How well do you know Timothy Botham? Who's that? Is that the guy who died?
He has no idea what we're talking about.
So Kenda turns up the heat.
Why don't you tell us about your girl Lori and her relationship to Timothy Botham?
And he got a very strangled look in his face.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What Mitchell Anderson offered was denial. Whatever we said, he said no.
And at this point of our questioning of Mitchell, I happened to glance down to the floor and the light bulb came on.
What happened to your other shoe?
And we look at each other, and we both have the same thought. Well, we know where the other one is, don't we? It is a standard end to a standard type of investigation where everyone lies, everyone denies, and the truth always comes out.
Actually, Mitchell, we already know where your other shoe is. We found it next to Tim's dead body at his apartment.
Well, how'd it get there?
That's a really good question. That's what we'd like to know.
Well, somebody must have planted it.
Who would have done that?
Who's the somebody? Is it the shoe fairy? He just looks at us.
I want a lawyer.
All right. Well, Mitchell Anderson, you're under arrest for first-degree murder.
Though Mitchell isn't cooperating, an active search of Mitchell and Lori's apartment strengthens the case against him.
Hey, Julie. Yeah. Take a look at this.
We searched and we found a number of incriminating blood smears that were on the kitchen cabinets. We also found bloody clothing that Mitch Anderson had been wearing. He was trying to conceal it.
Although the evidence points to Mitchell as the killer, Kenda and Arms still need to unravel what exactly happened and what part, if any, Lori played in Tim's death.
Lieutenant? Matthew, have a seat.
Matt Martin turned out to be a very key piece to this investigation, and he was able to really define for us everybody's roles and what happened.
Look, I hit Mitchell first. I admit it. But that son of a bitch killed Tim. Over a woman.
And he just starts talking, and we listen. We don't ask him any questions. He just tells us.
Ever since Tim moved into the complex, Lori was just nothing but a flirt. He thought she really liked him. I told him not to mess with a taken woman, but he wouldn't listen.
It's okay, Matt. Just tell us what happened.
What we conclude is that Mitchell and Lori had in fact gone out to dinner.
And while celebrating, Mitchell consumed a large amount of alcohol.
It's been a long time coming.
Hey, another one, please.
He's essentially blasted on alcohol. Somehow he's able to drive Lori home without getting in a wreck, and then he offers a ride to the babysitter.
And as soon as Mitchell left to take Cassie back home, Tim confronted Lori.
So what? You love him all of a sudden? No.
Will you
break it off? You, Lori.
Stop. Lori confronted him, man, and said, hey, I want to be with Mitchell, and we're going to get married.
According to Matt, though Tim was angry, it was Lori that escalated the situation.
Matt says that Lori has Timothy's hair in her hands. She's pulling his hair, pulling his ears, trying to punch him.
Lori, are you okay? Lori!
Get away from me!
Stop! What is wrong with you?
I'm sorry, okay?
It's done. Laurie, it's over. It's done. It's done.
He takes Timothy back to his own apartment and leaves Laurie upstairs.
10 minutes later, Mitchell returns home to a chaotic scene.
What? Who hit you?
Tim.
He's got to wonder, why would this neighbor attack her?
Boy, what's going on? Are you sleeping with him?
Laurie? And even though he's not drunk, he's not stupid. He puts two and two together, and he is furious.
Son of a bitch.
He armed himself with a kitchen knife.
He's not going to get away with this.
Mitchell!
According to Matt, he's trying to talk some sense into Tim.
Dude, I don't want to hear
You're going to break up
anymore.
her family?
Look, I'm done talking to you about it.
You can't make her love you. Tim, I'm telling you, you have to let her go.
You're being crazy.
I'm not.
You hit my girl, you son of a bitch.
Tim is a lot bigger and a lot stronger than Mitchell, and he's overpowering him. Laurie's afraid that Tim's going to hurt Mitchell.
And as Laurie jumps on Tim's back and pulls his head back, that gave Mitchell the opportunity to plunge that knife into Tim's chest.
What is wrong with you? And then Matt was able to grab the knife and throw it away into the other part of the apartment.
Matt explains that as Mitchell and Laurie ran off, he tried to help his dying friend.
It's believed at that point that when Mitchell left, he grabbed the knife and took it away from the crime scene.
Tim didn't have a phone, so I ran up to their apartment.
Who is it?
Hey, open up! Lori, I need to use your phone right now. Do you have a phone?
Hey, Al, what's going on, man? Well, no, don't yell at me, man. What's going on?
Exactly what's going on.
Mitchell is already scrambling for a way out of this. It is amazing that as drunk as Mitchell was, he could still create an alibi on the spot.
You're the one with the bloody shirt, man. You need to get out.
I'm not going anywhere.
Go.
Tim is dead.
Hey, you killed him.
Matt, is he dead?
You need to get out.
I'm not going anywhere.
No.
Mitchell Anderson accuses Matthew Martin of killing Timothy Bothan. Look at the blood in your clothes, and what Mrs. Anderson overhears is her son saying, "You killed that man."
I couldn't believe he was trying to pin this on me. I was so angry, I just slugged him. And he chased me downstairs. And that's when the police showed up. He deserves to rot now.
Thank you for the information. Detective Armstrong, escort you out. Nobody planned to kill anybody, but he sat and watched his best friend die that night.
Of criminally negligent homicide. She is sentenced to 4 years probation, 60 days in jail. Mitchell Anderson pleads guilty to second-degree murder and receives 24 years in prison.
I think the story about Tim, you gotta appreciate what he got in life. I would probably say to Tim, I was honored to be a brother. I miss him. And I really miss not knowing what he would be in life. And I would tell him, I'm glad I knew him.
What's unusual in this particular case is what is often seen among young people. Mix in a little alcohol, a little emotion, and it can be a fatal experience.
Investigations from the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda. First, a petty debt is repaid with gunfire.
The rumor in the neighborhood was that Clarence was a dead man.
To crack the case, Kenda must uncover what drove his vendetta.
The hell out the way, Cass. He just wanted to send a message.
There's a fatal mixture here of emotion and bad feelings.
Then, what's going on here? Kenda takes 2 patrolmen under his wing to solve the most bizarre shootings of his career.
Over 100 rounds have been fired into this kitchen.
Who says we need any detectives? Who can handle this?
This was a simple case, but it was so incredibly rare and so different that it is something you always remember. There is no such thing as an unsolvable crime. Think about your knowledge of human nature. Think about how and why people behave in the way they do. What is the evidence? What does it say? And at the end of the day, you have somebody by the throat, and that's the idea. There's one thing that never changes. Murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's Sunday evening at the Valley High Apartments, and Melanie Cruz is catching up with her good friend, Ramona Howard.
Here you go, hon. Oh, you're the best.
Ramona is pregnant and pretty close to going into labor.
I love the bassinet. I think you made the right choice.
You do?
Yeah.
Thanks. What's going on out there?
Is that a gunshot?
They panic, they go outside of their apartment to see what's happening.
Call the ambulance.
She realizes, there's something going on.
What is it? The baby's coming. Right now? You need to call 2 ambulances. Okay.
Across town, Joe Kenda is immersed in one of his favorite pastimes.
When I'm drawing, that's all that's happening. And I don't think about anything else. It is an escape for me from the realities of the world. The different things, none of which relate to what I do for a living. It's always especially difficult for me to be interrupted in that process by the phone ringing because I know who's on the other end.
It's Kenda.
Dispatch informed me of a shooting on the east side of town.
All right, I'll be there in 25 minutes.
If I was interrupted in drawing, I would tear up what I had in front of me. I'd destroy it.
How are you, Sarge? Jones? That's what we got. Our victim's a 23-year-old male named Clarence Branch, who was shot in the chest, and we just got word that he was DOA at the hospital.
Any witnesses?
Yes, the victim's girlfriend, Cheryl Sinclair, was there with her child. The kid was sick, however, so they were escorted to the hospital as well.
Let's take a look at the scene.
Sure thing. It's on the end.
The girlfriend of the victim is obviously a key witness. She undoubtedly sees this, but her child is very sick, so we don't have a starting place until we can talk to somebody that has some knowledge. When I walk into this apartment, it's obvious that a child lives here. There are drawings on the wall, there are stuffed animals and toys on the floor everywhere.
These are casings.
Yes, sir.
But our victim was only shot once, right?
Correct.
2 expended 25 caliber casings. So 2 shots fired, 1 hit the victim. Where'd the other one go?
So our victim died right here. Who those belong to?
There's blood droplets where the victim was found, but several feet away in a separate direction, there's also blood droplets. Well, where do those blood droplets come from? Do we have somebody else that shot here?
Excuse me, Sergeant. David Thomas Livery outside. He's the apartment manager. He says he has some information you want to hear.
Okay. Let's go talk to him.
So the building manager is a great resource because they know who comes and goes, who stays up late, who goes to work early.
Delivery. So what do you got for us?
I was out here working on this doorknob and I heard all this noise.
The apartment manager observed 2 people running from the apartment.
One guy went running one way and the other guy went the other way, and they just both disappeared.
So these 2 people are likely to be involved in this.
Do you know these guys? Did you get a look at them?
Now, to be honest, I was really kind of scared myself, so I just kind of ducked.
Thank you.
This isn't a ton of information, but considering a few minutes ago I had nothing, I'll take it.
So there's a neighbor I think you should speak with.
Who's that?
April Travis. She lives in the building across the street. Says she knows the victim.
All right, thank you. Travis? I'm Detective Kenda. I understand you know Clarence Branch?
Yes, I'm good friends with his girlfriend, Cheryl.
Apparently her children play with their children, and she has had numerous conversations with both Clarence and Cheryl.
What can you tell me about Clarence?
I know he's former military. Got divorced a little while back. He's a really nice guy. I've never known him to get into any kind of trouble.
The word was if you needed anything, you'd go to Clarence, and chances are he would help you out.
What about Cheryl? What do you know about her?
She's from Texas. She and her kid moved in with Clarence not that long ago.
She reports to us that Clarence Branch has 2 children from a previous engagement, and he has partial custody.
Is Cheryl divorced as well?
As far as I know, she's still going through a divorce with her husband in West Texas. I think his name is Felton.
We don't know who this husband is. We don't know if he's distressed about the divorce. We don't know any of the dynamics. What if this marriage is ending badly and something is happening as a result?
Do you know if there's any issues in this?
I'm not sure. Look, all I know is that she didn't want to see Felton ever again.
In divorces, it's not uncommon for children to be used as instruments of revenge. Here we have a girl from Texas getting divorced in Texas. Then she has removed this child from the state of Texas, probably with no one's permission. So there's a fatal mixture here of emotion and bad feelings that could have led to gunshot wounds in the case of Clarence.
What are you doing here?
Where's our daughter? Where's Rose? I want my daughter.
You can't be.
Rose!
What's going on, sir? Get the hell out of my house, man. This is my daughter.
This is just terrible that this has happened. Do you know who did it?
Not yet. We're getting there. Thank you.
We came here knowing nothing, but now we know quite a bit. Cheryl Sinclair is in the process of getting a divorce, and now her new boyfriend winds up dead. So the obvious question is, what's her soon-to-be ex-husband up to these days? Particularly on this... So we're investigating the death of Clarence Branch, a 23-year-old shot to death at his front door by person or persons unknown. We don't have a lot of information, but we're starting to get more details about Cheryl Sinclair, the woman he lives with.
So the police figure out pretty quickly that Cheryl's actually married to a man who lives in Texas.
How did you find us out?
When you're hearing this, your first thought is, could he have tracked her down from Texas to Colorado and ended up in an altercation and ended up shooting Clarence? That's something we got to look at.
The following morning, Detective Stephen Jones reaches out to a small sheriff's department in West Texas for some answers.
So witnesses can attest to his whereabouts?
Yes, sir. Alibi confirmed on multiple accounts.
You sure about that?
Oh, no doubt. Besides, I've known Felton Sinclair since he was a child. That boy didn't kill nobody. Don't have it in him.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your help.
You take care now.
Mr. Sinclair has a very firm alibi, and so the soon-to-be ex-husband is off the table.
The investigation feels stuck in first gear. But before long, a new lead materializes.
Hey, Sarge, one of our guys got a hold of Clarence's girlfriend, Cheryl, at the hospital. Apparently, her kid's feeling better and she's headed home shortly.
Perfect. So talk to her.
That's a help to this investigation. Cheryl was there when this shooting happened.
This all still feels like a bad dream.
We know how hard this is, Cheryl. We're trying our best to hope to find out who did this.
I know.
Cheryl explains that there had been some bad blood between Clarence and a resident of the building whose name was Albert James.
Clarence owed Albert's wife $20 for some babysitting she did for us a few weeks back, and he just hadn't gotten around to paying her back yet.
Only $20?
Yeah, but it was more than enough to piss off Albert, apparently.
Cheryl says a rumor in the neighborhood was that Albert had been telling people that Clarence was a dead man.
Baby, what are you doing?
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean, don't worry about it?
So Clarence, in response to hearing about these threats, bought a gun.
Clarence!
We're gonna keep that right in here.
Is this really necessary, Clarence? You know I don't like guns.
I know, baby, I know. We gotta protect ourselves.
Mr. Branch decides he doesn't need anyone's help but his own and engages in a one-man arms race and buys a handgun. When you take matters into your own hands...
Albert shows up at our front door last night.
If Clarence said there was going to be trouble, why let him in at all?
Yeah, well, when Clarence opened the door, he didn't see Albert. He saw Nathan.
Nathan?
Nathan Emerson. He lives here in the building. So Clarence opens the door for Nathan, and in comes crazy Albert right behind him.
Cheryl surmised that perhaps maybe Albert had paid Nathan a couple of bucks to knock on the door so that Clarence thought it was Nathan at the door.
So if we talk to this Nathan, he'll back up this entire story?
Oh, I don't know. I hardly know the guy. Who knows what he's gonna say? He might lie his ass off to protect Albert. I'm just telling you what I know.
And this interview's going on with Cheryl, and you're getting suspicious about some of the things she's telling you.
So if we give you a gunshot residue test, are you going to pass it?
What do you mean, gun residue?
Well, it's a test to see if there's any discharge on it from firing a weapon.
Well, I'm not gonna pass that.
Why not?
Because I shot the gun.
My. This is certainly getting more interesting.
When Albert came in, he was acting all crazy, so I got the gun and I thought that would scare him off, but instead he came at me, so I had to shoot him.
And where'd you shoot him?
In his arm.
This is a reasonable argument under the circumstances. Forced entry, assaults someone advances towards you. She has a self-defense argument.
Okay, then how did Clarence go about getting shot?
Albert came and took the gun away from me.
She says he takes it, twists it out of her hand, knocks her to the floor, turns around and fires one shot at Clarence.
And then Nathan and Albert took off while my man lay there dying.
We don't know why we had two casings at the crime scene. The second shot went into Albert James's arm. So our bad guy is not only on the loose, he is wounded, and he is still armed with Clarence Branch's pistol.
Let's get on the radio and contact all the medical centers again and look out for this guy. Mona?
It's now a plus that we know that Albert James has been shot, because he's going to need medical attention. So we notify all the hospitals who are seeking an individual with a gunshot wound to the right forearm.
Where does Nathan live?
Apartment 111, I think.
We appreciate you talking to us. Why don't you wait and get some rest? We may want to talk to you again.
If Nathan actively participated in a plot to gain entry, he's as responsible for the death of Clarence Branch as Albert James is. At this point, we don't know much about Nathan. If he worked with Albert to ambush Clarence, who's to say he wouldn't take out two detectives who show up at his door? We're going to knock with our hands on our weapons, just in case we need them.
Bye. Come on in. You want to know what I saw over at Clarence Branch's place, right?
So you admit you were there?
Yeah, man.
So in a surprising turn of events, Nathan is not only cooperative, but he's happy to speak to us.
I ain't got no car, and I needed to go see my uncle, so I was hoping to bum a ride off of Clarence. When I got up there, Clarence opened the door, and this guy comes out of nowhere, just blows right through me and into the apartment.
It's apparent from what Nathan says that Albert James took a moment of opportunity and he confronts Clarence.
I don't even know this guy, but he's like screaming at Clarence, and the next thing you know, I freaked out and got my ass out of there before I got shot too. I wasn't having no part of that.
So Nathan is not a participant. He's not a shill to open the door. He's not anything involving this offense. The story he tells and the story we know from other witnesses makes it perfectly believable that all he wants is a ride. So Nathan is out. We don't charge him with anything.
All right, Nathan. We appreciate the help.
Yeah, man. Whatever you need.
Go for Kenda.
So we've pretty much washed our hands of Nathan when I get a radio call.
I understand you're looking for a suspect named Albert James in connection with a shooting.
correct.
It's the sheriff's department, and what they tell me is exactly what I was hoping to hear. We're investigating the death of Clarence Branch by gunshot. We've just been told by the sheriff's department that the perfect person has come into our hands.
I understand you're looking for a suspect named Albert James in connection with a shooting.
10-4, that's correct.
Well, it looks like he turned himself in.
Did you say turned himself in?
He walks in and announces to the deputy behind the counter, "I've been shot and I have a gun." The deputy says, "Get on your knees," and they take him to the hospital to treat his wound.
10-4, we'll head over to the hospital and take it from there. Kenda out.
The deputy disarms him for the .25 caliber pistol in his pocket. Then they take him to the hospital to treat his wound. So let's go talk to the man and see what he has to say.
So James, we're going to talk about what happened between you and Clarence Branch.
Albert James is hurting, but he's basically going to be fine. We advise him of his rights, he waives, and launches into a story.
Clarence killed my girl violently.
He says Clarence pulls him inside his apartment.
Clarence had this tight hold on him. And his wife, she just came in and shot me for he said, "I got the gun." We started struggling, and it just went off.
Just went off, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
His story is the transparent iced tea story, about as weak as they get.
Well, we've got reports of you telling people you're going to kill Clarence over his death. What do you have to say about that?
And he looks at both of us for a few seconds and says,
"I want my lawyer."
That's fine. You're going to need one.
Yo! I didn't do it!
Albert James can say whatever he likes, but it's established by the witness statements that Albert has an abiding hatred for Clarence Branch. Why would any reasonable person believe that Albert James has had a change of heart, and now he's going to be a priest when he goes to see Clarence Branch? That is unadulterated bullshit.
Even though Albert James isn't talking, there's one person who might be willing to set the record straight. Albert's girlfriend, Cassie Davis.
So we understand there was some sort of debt?
This is so stupid. Clarence owed me some money for some babysitting I did.
She says she babysat for 3 children. 2 belong to Clarence, 1 belongs to Cheryl.
So how were they?
They were great, no problems at all.
All right, cool. Thanks for the help, Cassie.
Cheryl gave me 10, but it's gonna be 20 for the other 2.
Can I pay you later? Look, I ain't got the cash on me right now, and... come on, Cass. Look, I'll get it to you this week. I promise I'm good for it.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Then the week came and went and he never paid. I told Albert and he got very upset. And he tried to get the money from Clarence.
Albert, yo, what's going on, man?
You have the money you owe Cassie?
What?
What do you mean for what?
Oh, man. I forgot about that, yo. Let me get it to you this week, okay?
No. We waited long enough. You're gonna give me that money now.
You ain't gonna come up to my house tell me what to do, all right? You get her money when I get it to her.
I'm gonna get that money now.
Words are exchanged, threats are made, but it's all verbal. Nobody's hitting anybody, nobody's shoving anybody. It's just all verbal confrontation.
And then a week later I saw Clarence in a parking lot. And I asked him again about my money.
Clarence! Stop with the money!
Well, I already told your pain in the ass husband.
Right now.
Get the hell out the way, Cassie.
Please, Clarence.
I said move.
Clarence shoves her backwards, almost knocks her over. This starts out as a $20 debt. It ends up being far more than that.
I never should have told Albert. But I did, and he lost it. He ended up storming out.
Kenda can fill in the blanks as to what transpired next.
Albert James is determined to take revenge on Clarence Branch. Not just for the money, but primarily for touching his wife. Clarence crossed the line, and Albert was going to get even.
See, man. Look, I know it's kind of late, but I was wondering if I could get a ride to my uncle's.
Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. The problem is with...
Whoa, Albert. I know you messed up, you punk bitch.
Hey, man, what's up, man? Just relax.
Albert James takes advantage of the moment, rushes into the apartment, and physically confronts Clarence.
Hey, sir, we got this. Relax.
Get out! You ain't gonna shoot nobody. Get out! Shoot
He screams in pain and takes the gun away from her. Albert James fired one shot into Clarence Francis' chest. At the autopsy, we discover that bullet went in one side of his heart and out the other. That will do it.
Albert James is charged with second-degree murder, but he ultimately takes a plea deal for the lesser charge of reckless manslaughter and is sentenced to 10 years behind bars.
This is a crime of passion. It's a crime of rage. There's a difference. And Albert engages in that, and it winds up in the death of Clarence Brent. You get involved in emotional circumstances, be very careful. Don't allow something that's minor become something major. If you let it fester, you let it simmer, it could evolve into something that takes your life away from you.
Coming up, a hail of bullets raining from the sky propels Kenda and two young officers into a mind-blowing investigation.
This case was a simple case, but it was so incredibly rare and so different. It is something you always remember.
Something that we all do, warming up a cup of coffee in the microwave as the coffee's heating up.
What the hell's going on? He didn't know what was going on at first, and then realized it was gunshots coming into his house.
Kenda is stuck refereeing a less urgent conflict.
She's about my height, brown hair, teeth like a horse. Shouldn't you be writing this down?
I think we're okay, ma'am.
So you're gonna find her and arrest her, right?
At this particular time, I was not in investigations. I was in patrol, and much of the work in patrol can be quite mundane.
Can't you see? This car is in my driveway.
I tried to tell her.
This woman calls the police because she is enraged that her neighbor is blocking her driveway with his car.
It doesn't look like it's in your driveway.
And it is over the line by 2 inches.
A whole 2 inches.
So I suggest you do is put your tape measure back in your toolbox and go back to whatever it is you were doing.
I pay your salary, you know.
And I appreciate that. You have a wonderful day, ma'am.
So, to protect and serve, was that protecting or serving?
And the officer involved was a fellow named Dave Felice, very sharp guy. He was frustrated, and we walked back to our cars and said, look, don't we have something we can do that's like police work?
Come on. What we're doing is essential to a functioning society.
4 Paul 1, we have a code 3.
4 Paul 1 en route.
I looked at him and I thought, well, here, you wanted action? Here you go.
At the location, Kenda and Felice meet up with Officer Ralph Bruning, another young patrolman assigned to Kenda's sector.
me. Is anyone in the house? Not that I'm aware of. I was alone when the shooting started. All right, stay here.
We still don't know where, so we go in the house, guns drawn.
Show yourself!
Your initial arrival at the scene of a shooting is the most dangerous time for police. If there's going to be shooting, it's going to be right now.
All clear.
Same here.
Look at this place.
Damn.
The only room that really suffered damage was the kitchen. All the windows were shot out, all the cabinets were destroyed, the appliances had holes in them. It looked like a war zone.
Okay, let's go talk to the homeowner. See what the hell happened here.
One of the first things that you'd want to find out is why John Pellegrino. What is it about him that would have caused somebody to shoot at his house this many times?
It's clear. So what exactly happened here? Man, I wish I knew. One minute I was standing there getting my coffee, and the next I was on the floor dodging bullets. It was crazy.
They find out that John Pellegrino has a military history, and when shots start firing around him, he does what you do instinctively as a soldier. You basically fall to the ground and start crawling away, trying to get help.
And I didn't want to take a shot at you? No. I wish I knew. Is it safe for me to go back in? Well, it's safe, but we still need to process the house for evidence. You might want to use your neighbor's phone and call your insurance guy. Yeah, all right, I'll do that now. Thank you.
I'll call and get the detectives to come out.
Who says we need detectives? I think we can handle this.
Really?
Come on, let's take a look inside.
Bernie and Felice lit up like Christmas bulbs. They were thrilled at the idea of doing something besides measuring the bumper of a car 2 inches over some crazy lady's driveway. The advantage I had in using my officers instead of detectives is no one's hurt. It becomes a property crime, and property detectives do not respond to scenes. They're too busy.
Inside the home, Kenda walks the officers through the evidence in the kitchen.
This was an opportunity for me to teach and to train these two guys and how to think like a detective. What do we think, and why do we think that?
Okay, gentlemen, what do you see? Looks like a hell of a lot of shots.
Over 100 rounds have been fired into this kitchen.
Can you tell the caliber?
Looks like 22s.
Which indicated that it most likely was being fired from some type of rifle.
So whoever did this was trying like hell to take our guy out.
You sure about that? And don't you think it's a bit odd with this many shots fired, not hit the homeowner? Sit on that.
I still think about it. What if he's not the target? We don't know what it is. But I don't think it's focused on
search of more clues.
Hey, Kenda, these holes in the top of this fence look like bullet holes.
Yeah, now we just need to find out exactly where they came from. Yeah, we're gonna need to get the lab out here to help us with this. Dispatch, start crime lab.
The lab techs have tools that officers in the field don't carry with them when they're out on patrol. They're going to be key in helping us assess what exactly is going on here.
A lab tech arrives within the hour, and with her help, Kenda hopes to determine the precise angle by which the bullet struck the fence.
CSI trucks carry a dowel rod of various sizes, and they're designed to tell you angle of fire and caliber from bullet damage. We know it's 22, so we take 22 sticks, insert those sticks in the bullet holes in the fence.
Take another look at the holes, boys.
What do you see? Well, they're all coming down. Exactly. They're not coming across. They're not horizontal. They're at a 30-degree angle downward.
So basically, these rounds were losing steam before they hit inside and out here.
You got it, please.
These bullets are almost out of gas by the time they arrive in this kitchen. They still have enough punch to cause a lot of damage, but they're a long way away when they're being fired. So whatever they're shooting at isn't this guy. It's collateral damage. They're shooting at something else.
So if the homeowner wasn't the target, who was?
And who pulled the trigger?
I looked at both of them and I said, that, gentlemen, is what we have to learn. investigating this incident in which over 100 shots are fired into somebody's house. 30-degree down angle, where did they come from? That is the new question.
Kenda uses a pair of binoculars to scan the area for clues.
Bingo. There's our target.
Really?
Here, have a look yourself.
A few hundred yards away, there is a 25-foot telephone pole with a streetlight attached.
Okay, I see the street light, but so what? Wait a minute. Oh, is that a bullet hole in it?
Bishop, there's your target. Someone's shooting at the light from the other side of that area. And all he can see is the light because that ground is mounded. So it's an up angle from the guy's backyard and a down angle from the other side.
How the hell are we supposed to know where those rounds came from?
I know an engineer company around the corner. Maybe they could help. That'd be great. Let's find out. I'm on it.
In all years I was a policeman, if you really do, most of the world is just fine. There's only a small percentage of it that isn't fine.
Dr. Kenda, it's Michael Orr from the engineering company I told you about. It's good to meet you.
Also, Burning said that you were trying to determine the point of origin for some bullets landed here?
Oh, that's correct.
Okay, we just need whatever information you can give us, types of ammunition, that sort of thing.
They have the bullets, so they know the bullet's mass. They have what type of gun was used, and so this is like a physics problem, kind of a math problem to figure out.
They're working away with their pads and their little computers that they've got. They've got measurements and are taking laser beam shots and they're going crazy. Studying the angle of incoming bullets, and they've got that all worked out.
Hey, Sergeant, you want to come here? I think we have something.
What is it?
Your point of origin is a half mile away. Here, on Woodman Valley Road.
Are you sure of that?
I'll stake our professional reputation on it.
That's good enough for me. Thank you, sir.
So they pack up all their toys and go back to work. And I sit Brenning and Felice down. Says, okay.
Now, what type of person will be out on a Saturday morning shooting a lamppost and not think twice about where the bullets are landing?
I don't know, a kid maybe?
Now you're thinking. Hey, come on. Let's head over to Woodman Valley Road.
We drive over with our map of Woodman Valley Road at the exact spot where we should be. There's a woman unloading her groceries out of the back of an SUV.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Is something wrong?
By chance, you have a minor living here with you?
Yes, my 15-year-old son's inside with his friend.
Does he have access to a gun?
Yes, actually, he does.
This woman then assured Sergeant Kenda that her son would not have been firing the gun when she wasn't home.
Would you mind if we spoke with your son and his friend?
No, that's fine.
Oh, would you also mind if we looked around your backyard while we wait?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll bring him out here.
Thank you.
So we walked back there, and we immediately knew we were in the right spot.
Hey, guys. Look at them all.
There's a pile of over 100 expended .22 caliber casings. They're fresh and shiny.
You could tell that they had just recently been fired, and so it was a strong indication that this was the source of the gunfire.
I'll be damned. That's that same street light.
Both Bernie and Felice were just being.
This is my son, Jake. This is his friend, Tim.
So here comes this kid. He's white as a piece of paper and his shirt's bouncing because his heart's going 100 miles an hour.
You boys doing some target practice out here this morning?
No, sir. I'm not allowed to shoot my rifle without a parent present.
How do you explain those?
We did some shooting.
Jake, what were you thinking?
We were just messing around.
Well, you're messing around. Put a bunch of bullet holes in a man's house about a half mile from here. And you're extremely lucky he wasn't hit.
Oh, my God. I'm gonna be sick.
We didn't mean to do that. We were just trying to shoot the streetlight. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, officer.
Jake Ellis is the good kid. He's not a criminal. Just did a silly, stupid, kid-like thing.
Sit out front. Let's go.
He got this gun from his grandfather. He was enamored of it. Well, once you have it, you gotta try it out if you're a kid. And that's exactly what he did. Today's Here's another kid. Bring your rifle. We're gonna have a good time. So from where Jake and Tim were shooting, they were shooting in an upward direction towards the streetlight. And once the bullets essentially passed the streetlights, they lost momentum and then started to return to Earth, essentially.
Happened to me, I would go buy a lotto ticket because I would feel like I'm probably, at that moment, the luckiest man alive.
As for Jake Ellis and his friend Tim, they are about to learn a valuable lesson, courtesy of the Colorado Springs Police Department.
Couldn't couple. Yeah, boys, what you did today was irresponsible and extremely dangerous. When you break the law, there's serious consequences.
We made it abundantly clear they could have taken a life with their silliness. We put them in the back of cruisers in handcuffs just for drill. We're not going to take them anywhere, but we made them believe they're on their way to Sing Sing.
What's going to happen to us?
Well, that's up to the judge. But you could be facing some serious time. You guys learn your lesson?
Yes, sir.
Are you ever gonna do something like this again?
No, sir.
Come on out.
And then we took handcuffs off and gave back to Mom. They needed some time to go change their pants anyway.
In addition to teaching two young boys a valuable lesson, the case also left an indelible mark on two up-and-coming officers.
I felt that I had done my job as a supervisor, that I provided them with a level of confidence that they perhaps never had. And that was important to me. Rooney and Felice are elated. It was their moment to do something different, to do something in their minds exciting. They were able to solve a mystery that appeared to be unsolvable, and those are the best kind.